And one. Yo, what is good, folks? It's your boy Sports PSP. Welcome to another episode of the Sports PSP podcast. Got my crew BRF Sports. How you doing, BRF?
Man, I can't complain. Life is pretty good. Another week of work. Well, I got one more day of work. I got to work tomorrow. But hey, I can't complain. Life is good. How y'all brothers doing?
Doing good. And of course, we can't do the show without my man, undisputed world champ. How you doing, brother?
Man, doing good, man. Finals week is this week. Getting down to the nitty gritty, man. A couple more months to that degree gets captured, degree number 4, and I'm just happy to be a part of the highlight of Friday nights, the Sports PSP podcast. While I tune into Caitlin Clark versus Asia Wilson, man, one of the hottest games of the year. Man, it's just good to be here, man. I'm just glad to be here. It's always an honor, a privilege, and a pleasure in order to be on the show, bro.
Absolutely. Thank y'all for doing as much as you can for the Sports PSP podcast. Already 16,500 subscribers. So we're going to continue to do whatever we can to make sure we get to the top. But, fellas, I got to talk to y'all a little bit about college football. Notre Dame, they got upsetted by Northern Illinois. BRF, I'm going to let you go first. What were your thoughts?
This is why I will always continually not take Notre Dame seriously when it comes time to contending for national championships, because they do this every year. Whether it's losing a big game late in the year when you finally think they've arrived and they're doing something, or they lay an egg like this against a team that they should be beaten by 20. Um, this is really why I don't take them serious as like a national championship contender, as a guy that as a team that can like kind of rekindle their rekindle their perennial just you know being an entity of being one of the most well-known entities of college football. This is why I don't take them serious, because they do this like every year. So it's like, honestly, for me, it's like it's them in Florida State. For me, it's like until they can really give me reason to believe that they can get back to prominence, it's stuff like this is going to continue to happen. This is why they're usually always behind the 8 ball. I mean, they recruit decently, but they're still not recruiting enough. They're not recruiting to the levels of like a Georgia and Alabama. Like a Oklahoma, Oregon, a Texas. Teams like that are continuously bringing in elite level recruits to their campuses. This because at the very least with those programs, whether it be in their conference or interconference games, they're winning big games. They're getting to show out on big stages, and they're beating some of these elite level colleges, and Notre Dame is just regularly just still not doing that. So they just need they need to rebound from this. Does this take them out of the college football playoff? Absolutely not. I mean, it's still one loss. I mean, it's a bad loss, but I mean, this is the new advantage of having a 12-team playoff, is that it does one loss like this doesn't eliminate you early. They just need to they need to get back on the ball and get back on the drawing board and find a way to kind of regroup and recover, because they definitely need it. Because if this was BCS era, ain't no recovering a Northern Illinois loss. If this was BCS era, at least with the college football playoff era, they can hopefully right the ship and get back on it and hopefully play some good football. Week 3, week 4, and 4. But they got some soul searching to do.
Mm. It's kind of disappointing for Notre Dame because they're coming off an impressive victory in the season opener against Texas A&M, in which they were a 3-point underdog in that game, and they lose to Northern Illinois. But shout out to the head coach, Thomas Hammock. That speech, man. I mean, that was a great speech that in which he gave. And Notre Dame, man, I don't know. I don't know. I mean, the offense didn't look as good though, but it's really disappointing. Champ, I'm gonna let you go, man. What were your thoughts?
This seems like it's exact the opposite with the outgoing coach and Brian Kelly and the incoming coach with Coach Freeman. Brian Kelly couldn't win the big games, and Coach Freeman can't win the small ones. I mean,
the antithesis.
You went down, yeah. You went down to Texas A&M, and I mean, and the biggest knock on modern Notre Dame, I can't say past Notre Dame, modern Notre Dame, the past like 20 years, is that they couldn't beat the SEC. You go down to the SEC, you beat a talented team in one of the hardest places to play in America. Then you come back the very next week and lay an egg. Were you not prepared enough for this team? Because you got to understand this, ain't no safe spaces in college football. In the NFL, we say beat the teams you're supposed to beat. Well, in college, you're not supposed to beat anybody. Anybody can catch you slipping. And this was a prime example of a trap game. You coming off that big win, the highs of the highs, you beat the SEC in College Station. Now you come back and now you lose. And I think they were even at home. They was at home, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was at home. They lost at home to Northern Illinois.
So you essentially paid $1.4 million to get upset. So that's what you did. That's what we do in Notre Dame. And that is why, in the great words of BRF, no one takes the Fighting Irish serious anymore. It's no longer Notre Dame against the world anymore like it was in the 60s, 70s, and even the early 80s and 90s. You are now a civic joke. Like I said, Brian Kelly couldn't beat the big teams. Now Coach Freeman is losing small games that you're supposed to go out here and execute and beat these teams and make a statement that you deserve to be in college football, in the college football playoff. Because the thing is, look, your record is not going to necessarily get you in the college football playoffs. Let me say that again. Your record is not going to necessarily get you in the college football playoffs. Remember what happened to Florida State last year?
Mm-hmm.
Remember what happened to Ohio State a couple of years back?
Mm-hmm.
Remember what happened to the University of Georgia a couple of years back?
Mm-hmm.
Remember what happened to the University of Georgia just last year? So your record is not going to always speak for itself when it comes to these committees, because they're going to be looking at, hey, how did you fare even early in the season against these quote-unquote lackluster teams? They're going to be taking that into effect. So just because you're Notre Dame does not mean you're entitled to anything. Just going to be very, very honest with you. Notre Dame, Coach Freeman, y'all got to pick it up. That was a game, a very, very winnable game. Y'all had every opportunity in order to win that game, and you blow it at home of all places. At home. Granted, it's not over, but the thing is, you got to ask yourself, is it really? Because guess what? 4 SEC teams get automatic bids. So if it comes to one of those SEC teams getting an automatic bid and Notre Dame getting out of there, you best believe they're going to pick an SEC team. And then you got to think about the Big Ten. So, I mean, and then you got to think about another Power 5 school. So it's not necessarily a guarantee that you're going to get in. And this is no knock on you, PSP. A lot of people keep thinking that just because this is not the BCS or the 4-team college football playoff era no more, that these small games don't count. Every game counts in college football. And like I said, just last year, Georgia was defending national champions. One game got us up out of there.
2-time defending national champions.
So say again?
2-time defending national champions.
Exactly. We won back-to-back. One game got us up out of there. Yeah. One game. And they didn't show no favoritism just because we were in the SEC and because we were defending national champions. They didn't show no favoritism. You lost that game. Now you're behind up out of there. So my thing is, every game counts, especially when you're in the independent conference like Notre Dame. When you're independent, you cannot afford to make no mistakes. You can't. You don't have a conference game at the end of the year in order to fall back on to give a lasting impression to the college football playoff committee. From now on, it's got to be all bets off, all or nothing. You got to run the table because you still got to worry about Georgia Tech on down the line. Then you got to worry about that high-powered offense in USC on down the line. So ain't nothing coming to you free just because you're Notre Dame. So you got to win the big games. You got to win the small ones. And people always say you can't win the big one. In the great words of the late, great John Madden, God rest his soul, tell me any case where there's a small game. There is no small games, especially in college football. So Notre Dame, Coach Freeman, you did a great job that first game. It was the highest of the highs, but now you got to come back and bring the boys back and let them know, hey, every game counts if we want to uphold the Notre Dame standard. Because the thing is, them winning a national championship in Notre Dame now is equivalent to the Cleveland Browns winning one right now. They haven't had anything in a very, very long time. So for a perennial historic powerhouse in order to win something, now that means something, especially with a lot of the teams coming back. Like, look at Nebraska.
Yeah.
Look at the University of Miami.
Yeah.
All of these historic teams are making their way back. Notre Dame, you got to be at the forefront of that. You're Notre Dame. You cannot afford to go out there and lay an egg at home.
Certainly agree with you, fellas. I mean, there's still a lot of work to do with Notre Dame. Shout out to my man Joshua Bailey, who's one of the guys from the Stay Tuned Live podcast. Please go check it out every Tuesday nights, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 7 p.m. Pacific Time. Two of the goats in the podcast world, PSP and Champ. Appreciate you, brother. Let's talk. I'm glad you mentioned about Nebraska, Champ. Did you saw that Nebraska Colorado game?
Yes, I did. They that was a down home Mississippi whooping. Grandma's like, okay, watch what Colorado got that.
They could. Shador Sanders, look, he didn't play well in that game, but my God, he couldn't get even any protection in that pocket. And Dylan Raiola, there was the touchdown that he threw that should have been picked. It looked like it should have been picked, but then ironically, the wide receiver was still capable enough to pull it off for the touchdown. Look, I love Prime. We all love Prime. We respect Deion Sanders. My God, man, that defense and that offensive line, you're going to have to make some huge improvements, man. And I just think this is a sign of things to come for the rest of the season. And with Prime, I mean, this is a bad look for Nebraska. I'm sorry, for Colorado, not Nebraska. Dylan Raiola, yeah, he's definitely bringing a lot of hope to the team. I'm kind of surprised that he went to Nebraska. I actually thought he was going to go to your Georgia Bulldogs, Champ, because again, Matthew Stafford, his father, Dominic Raiola, Matthew Stafford, they were teammates at Detroit. But man, Nebraska, man, he's done a good job of changing that program. As for Colorado, man, you're going to have to do something with that offensive line. And you're going to have to do something with the defense because they're not getting enough playmakers on the defensive side, man. Other than Shador Sanders, Travis Hunter, and Jimmy Horn, I don't know what else to say, man. Really, I really don't know. But you tell me, Champ.
To be honest with you, man, look, what do I always say, PSP?
Quarterback can't throw on his back.
On his back. And you know what? The thing is, man, look, the most important position on there, on that field, people think it's the quarterback position, is that offensive line. That line can keep your jersey clean all day long. A good line will have your jersey clean and ready to go to the club right after the game. So you have to focus on that. You have to focus on that offensive line. And they either need to recruit better or they need to get better line coaching because this is the second year in a row. I mean, Shador Sanders, he didn't even have 2 seconds in order to get back there before they were just, and it wasn't just the fashion that they were being beat. It was the style. It was just, they were just being overpowered and overwhelmed. It's just like they was back there within 2 seconds. I mean, Shador had to roll out nearly every play. So, look, Coach Prime, Coach, I've always, ever since you were with my Atlanta Falcons, you've always been one of my favorite players of all time. But I must say this. I don't think he's done a great job in bringing the proper recruits here. I think he's been too reliant on the transfer portal and not bringing kids on the recruiting trail. You know, you got to bring guys in on the recruiting trail. If you're trying to build something, then build it for real. In the NFL, you just can't build a team in free agency. You got to build in the draft as well. And the recruiting trail is in college is equivalent to that draft. If you see a lot of these powerhouse schools, they didn't just go to the transfer portal and get big. They did a lot of things in the recruiting trail in the traditional way as well. So they got to do a better job on that. And my thing is, look, whether they want to admit it or not, this is affecting Shedeur Sanders' draft status. This is affecting his draft status. Because if you're on your back every other play, they're not going to see how good you are in the NFL. And then you have to ask yourself how shell-shocked you're going to be once you get to the NFL. Or you're going to be so gun-shy to the point where you can't operate in the capacity that you normally would. So Coach Prime has to do a better job of recruiting that offensive line. In reality, they have a lot of work to do on that defensive side of the ball. And they need to do a lot of work on that recruiting trail. I mean, they have a lot of work because there's a lot of rumors swirling around. And I don't know if it's true or not, but they say that Coach Prime did not do not one in-home visit. But when he did an interview, he said, well, I don't have to do in-home visits. I bring those parents to me to see what I'm doing here at the school. But we don't see no number one recruiting classes as far as Colorado is concerned, especially when you have all of these pros, these former Pro Bowl, all-pro coaches on your staff. That should be a selling point. Hey, we know what it takes to get to the NFL and the Hall of Fame because guess what? We've been there. But it's going to take a little bit more because the thing is, I'm just going to be very, very honest with you. Coach Prime, this is a bad look. No line, no defensive line. The only thing that you have going for yourself right now is the big three. Shedeur, Travis, and right now Jimmy Horn, because Shiloh, he just got hurt with that arm injury. He's in the hospital. God bless him. Wish him a speedy recovery. But this is a bad look right now. It's even worse than last year. At least last year, you had the hype of the first 4 games. Now it's like there's no hype. It's like this is bad. So, Coach Prime, we got to do something about that offensive line and your playmakers on the defensive line. This is no longer just a showcase.
Before I headed off to BRF, give a question. Shout out to Josh Bailey. This is a question. Would it hurt his draft stock if he shut it down for the season so he don't get hurt? Referring to Shedeur Sanders.
I think that it would because a lot of guys' draft status are getting affected. And look, let's just be very, very honest. It's the media versus Dion. And they're going to say it's the media versus Dion. Call it what you will. Read between the lines. It's the media versus Dion. And they're going to have a hell of a lot to say if he, in fact, does that. Now, quite frankly, while I have a problem with it, no, I wouldn't. I'm not trying to get you hurt. You have a long career ahead of you. But at this point in time, look, it is I think that would definitely hurt his draft status. I mean, a lot of things are hurting it beyond his control at this point in time. But I think it would definitely hurt his draft status. Why? Like I said, if his coach was Dabo Swinney or Kirby Smart or one of those guys who said, look, we can't really protect him. I cannot get him hurt out here. He has a long career ahead of him. I'm not going to put him out there. If one of those coaches with some cachet, or even Kellen DeVore, if one of those coaches with some cachet was to say that, you probably wouldn't hear a word about it. But because it's Dion, you're going to hear a hell of a lot more about it. And I think that would definitely hurt his draft status.
I think they'll give more of a reason to criticize his draft status because if he decides to sit out for the rest of the season, people are going to question him and they're going to accuse him of being selfish and being a diva and all these other things. And Champ, CJ Stroud in the 2023 NFL draft, They said a lot of negative things about CJ Stroud prior to the draft. He was out of
Yeah.
Ohio State, the Wonderlic score, but you've constantly talked about. But I've said it before. I would have taken CJ in that draft because I think he was the most poised out of Bryce Young and Anthony Richardson. And you constantly talked about the semi playoffs between Ohio State and Georgia. He gave you what 3-4 heart attacks in that game.
Yeah, the heart attack game. Yeah, but
Yeah,
I
had it
mean,
not been for the Marvin Harrison injury,
we would have lost. Like I said, I'm not a biased fan. I'm not scared to admit it. We would have lost. So I mean, we
right?
was a field goal away. I'm not biased, but like I said, it's Dion versus the media, and if
No,
he gets
that's
shut
true.
down for a year, I mean, if he gets shut down for the rest of the year, you can best believe it's going to be a lot of backlash. Like I said, if it was a coach, even a Lane Kiffin, if things get so bad on that offensive line that he decided to sit, Jackson Dart, and because they can't protect him anymore and they don't want to get him hurt, then you probably wouldn't hear another word about it because they have a good history. They're media savvy and they're not villains of the media. But right now, if that was to happen, yeah, that would cause a hailstorm like no other.
Yeah, definitely been problematic. BRF, what are your thoughts about Colorado?
This season for me is just kind of they got exposed a lot sooner because last year they didn't have like the hardest of like the beginning schedules, even though they did play TCU. TCU lost a lot of those pieces that got to that national championship game the year before. They just really need to truly. I get Prime, wanting to get, the skill positions, the playmakers there. I get that. I completely understand where he's coming from. He needs a pass rush. He needs an offensive line. He needs to understand at the end of the day, you win in the trenches. You win in the trenches. You can't win if you have to catch up as far as like getting guys for your offensive line and getting guys for your defensive line. He needs serious pieces there in order to truly, if he wants to bring Colorado up, he's got to start recruiting where it matters, and that's on both of those lines. And let me tell you something. I would understand if they wanted to shut Shedeur down for the rest of the season if it got to a point where they couldn't protect him anymore. But honestly, I'm with Champ. It would hurt it. It would hurt it. At this point, it would hurt his draft stock. It would hurt his draft stock because you have to look at it from the standpoint of you got all of last year and the first two games as far as like higher level competition. They're not necessarily going to go back to your days of when you were playing at Jackson State before you got recruited, before you transferred to Colorado. They're going to go off what you're doing against the highest of the high as far as like level of competition. And do I think he's got first quarterback of the draft potential, to be drafted? Absolutely. Like what he showed a lot of last season, and then in particular that first game of the season, the arm, the athleticism, the mobility to be able to move in the pocket. What surprised me the most about Shedeur is his ability to scan the field and go through his progressions. That to me was the main thing I thought that maybe could have held him back, because I felt like he had the arm talent, he had the athleticism. For me, was being able to scan and get through his reads, and he has shown a really good surprising ability to be able to do that. If I was him, I wouldn't. I would only shut it down if it's like a coach's call and it just got to a point where the offensive line just, I don't think they can do the job now. But if it got like really, really bad, then I could see it. But if I wouldn't do it. I would want to at least get another year out of him, and show that he is a viable quarterback prospect for the next level, and ultimately get drafted, anywhere in the, possibly contending for the number 1 overall pick, depending on which teams are up for that pick next year. Dion just really needs to kind of like I was talking about soul searching with Notre Dame. Dion and his coaching staff, they need to do some soul searching in Colorado and understand that they're not gonna be a big time program if they can't protect Shedeur Sanders And if they can't get after the quarterback and sack the quarterback to be able to get that offense on the field, because we know that offense can do when they have time and they're out there on the field. I mean, you got Shador, you got Travis Hunter, you got Jimmy Horn. We know what they can do. And even though I can't think of the running back's name off the top of my head, these years of Deion being in Colorado, they've had a pretty decent running game as well. So we know what that offense can do on the field. They just need to they need to find a way to protect Shedeur Sanders, whether it's create more of a moving pocket for him, keep from exposing those weaknesses that the offensive line had, because it's obvious none of them are the greatest as far as just going one-on-one, a hat on a hat. It's obvious they're not the greatest. But like I said, whether it's devising some stuff in the game plan, moving pocket, more zone scheme, stuff like that, kind of hide the weaknesses of the offensive line to where they can do a little more. Just stuff like that to keep Shedeur Sanders from getting killed every other play. The dude barely had like 1.5, 2 seconds of protection before red shirt was in the back tagging him. If they want to do anything this season, they got to find a way to protect him. And then Dylan Raiola, that man probably could have made like 2 phone calls. Boy probably could have called DoorDash, got him some food order for him and his offensive line. Colorado
Georgia
hasn't
could have
shown
had him.
that.
He could have went to Georgia.
Georgia did have him. He didn't want to wait behind Carson Beck. He committed to Georgia. He just didn't want to wait behind Carson Beck, which I understand from his perspective. To be as highly touted a prospect as you are, you do kind of want to play immediately to show people what they do. Georgia had him. He was committed. He just didn't want to wait behind Carson Beck. That's why he ultimately transferred to Nebraska. So, yeah, he was a commit. He was in the fold. He's a Nebraska transfer. He was with Georgia. He's a transfer.
Hey, listen, Georgia will be fine though.
That's what I'm saying. Oh yeah, Georgia. Honestly, Georgia's not worried, because honestly, I still feel like for this team this year, Carson Beck is the better quarterback for them. But I digress. But going back to Colorado, going back to Colorado, and particularly that defensive line, shoot, even if it's just devising schemes to be able to blitz more, to be able to disguise their coverages more, they need to find a way to get pressure on the quarterback with that front seven. Otherwise, they're either going to be getting blown out, or they're going to be having like 52 to 45 USC games every other week. They just really need to come up with something. Deion and his coaches, they need to get together and they need to sit down, understand the strengths, understand their weaknesses, and truly focus on them. Otherwise, don't even worry about the playoffs. Just worry about having a good season.
Hey, as Champ always says, to quote Master P, is about as ugly as a Master P sneaker. I think that's the quote Champ always brings up all the time.
And that's some ugly ass shoes too, bro.
But I want to give a quick shout out to my man Grant. Shout out to the gang. He's celebrating his 24th birthday. Happy birthday, brother, with the fam.
Yes,
He'll
sir.
be here next week. Speaking about shutting it down, unfortunately, we gotta talk about the Miami Dolphins. Tua Tagovailoa was injured. He was out for the rest of the game due to a concussion. The Buffalo Bills won hands down. Guys, I'm concerned with Tua. Now, one could argue you could have been concerned about Tua a long time before, because coming out of college, he had durability issues. And hold on real quick, my man Jay Bailey, he said, before I go to work, I have to give PSP credit about Baker Mayfield. You've been right about him. Hope you're wrong about Caleb, though. No, I'm not wrong about Caleb yet. It's just one bad game. Mere bag of shells. But shout out to Champ. He was the one who actually convinced me on about Baker Mayfield, and we'll get into that in just a second on the PSP show. But appreciate that, Jay Bailey. But Tua Tagovailoa, guys, 3 concussions in Miami. Look, Brian Flores, it was reported that he did not want Tua Tagovailoa. He wanted Justin Herbert. The Miami Dolphins, they already gave Tua Tagovailoa his contract, 4-year, $212 million, over $100 million, guaranteed. I hate to ask this question. Should they shut down Tua? Be Champ, you go first.
NFL, Miami Dolphins, do the right thing, man. Do not put that young man back on that field. And PSP, credit to you, sent me an article earlier today, right before we went on the air. If they medically discharge, I'm thinking about something else. If they medically retire him, he can still collect that $124 million bonus. If he opts to retire, then he forgoes it. Look, Dolphins, and look, Mr. Ross, Stephen Ross, you just sold 50%, 15% of that team. So you just made $300-something million. So do the right thing, medically retire Tua, and guess what? NFL, step in and do something. Hey, if you got to give them a few compensation picks for them losing him for an injury, have at it. But the thing is, Miami Dolphins, do the right thing. Do not trot that young man back on that field anymore. It's time to go get another quarterback. And I hate to say this, but there were many questions even before you gave him that contract of how durable he was going to be in the first place. The signs were there, but now we're here. So the thing is, do not trot that young man back on the field another play. Just read another article that says he's going to be out for at least 6 to 8 weeks. So don't trot that young man back on that field. Medically retire him because if you don't medically retire him, the only thing that's going to be on that mind is that money. He's going to go back out there, and this time we can see something even worse happen, something we haven't seen in years. We already saw how frightened the public was with the Damar Hamlin situation. Let's not put our children and people who watch through that again. And that was just something on a freak accident. That's just something that occurred with his vitally organs.
It wasn't a brutal hit.
Yeah, it wasn't a brutal hit. So it's just something that occurred with his heart. He had a heart attack. But the thing is, don't put that young man's family through that. Don't put him through that. Sometimes when we're in our youth, we're not smart enough to know what's good for us. And what's good for Tua is for the Miami Dolphins and the NFL to medically retire him, pay that $120 million out in increments. If you got to pay him $11 million a year for the rest of his life till that contract is over with, then do that and start trying to find you another quarterback moving forward. Because not only are you in danger, you're in danger of two things right now, Miami. If you trot him back on that field. Well, three things. You're in danger of ruining and jeopardizing a life, number one, not just a career. You're in danger of, putting this back. You're in danger of putting a black eye on the NFL, number two. And number three, you're in danger of doing something that you've been known for since Dan Marino left. You had a defense earlier in 2000 and some great offensive players. You just didn't have a quarterback, and you wasted that team under Dave Wanstead. You had Ricky Williams. You had Chris Chambers. You had Randy McMichael on the offensive side of the ball. On the defensive side of the ball, you had Jason Taylor. You had Agulier.
Zach Thomas.
You had Zach Thomas. You had Junior Seau. You had Channing Crowder. You had one of the best secondaries that money could buy in Patrick Surtain Sr., Sam Madison, and Brock Marion. You had that, and that team was wasted. So you're on the verge of not only, jeopardizing a life, putting another black eye on the NFL, but you're in danger of wasting another potential good team. Because this team has some weapons. This team, if you was to put the right person in this system that was durable, then guess what? You will be in Super Bowl contention every year. But as far as Tua is concerned, do the right thing. Don't trot that young man back on that field just because you don't want to pay out some money. Medically discharge that young man and let him have his life for the rest of his life. I mean, do what the great Eddie DeBartolo would do, the former owner of the San Francisco 49ers. Do what he did for Will Fuller. Remember back in the 80s when Will Fuller made that tackle and had nerve damage in his arm and lost the use of his right arm for the rest of his life. He didn't try them back on that field. He set up an annuity and paid that young man for the rest of his life, even though he was up under no obligation in order to do that. So do something like that. Pay that man his money. You knew he had durability issues before you even paid him. But now that we're here, medically discharge him, so he would never even attempt to make a comeback. That's my thing. You pay him out, you medically discharge him, he would never even attempt to try to make a comeback because he won't have to worry about money issues for the rest of his life. Either that or give him a position in the front office, something, with the team or the staff, or, restructured, something like that.
Like a coach or
something.
But
the thing, yeah. But don't trot that young man back on that field. We've seen him literally have 3 seizures on that field. We saw it. And then I don't have to be a neurologist to understand what a seizure is. We saw it. So don't put another there's too many black eyes on this team, on the NFL as it is, in order to do that. And I see the comment saying, protect yourself. But the thing is, look, you're not thinking about that in the moment to protect yourself when you're in a football game. As a former athlete myself, amateur boxer, martial artist, you're not thinking about that in the game. You're thinking about how can I help my team win at this moment. You're not thinking about, hey, man, what if I have this? What if this happens? If you're thinking like that, you're not going to succeed. I'm sorry. You're not going to be thinking like that when you're in the heat of the moment and you're trying to win football games or win a fight or win a basketball game. You're not thinking, let me protect myself. You're thinking about, I got to show my teammates and myself that we can go out here and we can win football games. So guess what? Hey, and the first thing you're thinking about, hey, you're thinking about everything. They just gave me all this money. They just invested a lot in me. Hey, I got people that I know I have to take care of. You're thinking about all of that. So the last thing you're thinking about when you're on that field is, hey, let me protect myself. You're thinking about trying to win a football game and show you got some guts out there. You're the quarterback. And the thing is, you can protect yourself too much and get criticized. Look what happened with Cam during the Super Bowl. Rest my case.
Well said, Undisputed World Champion. Shout out to my man, Big Ox Media. Go check him out on Player's Choice. Does a great job, with the basketball content and so much more. He said, I'm really concerned for Tua. Hope he stays home. He also had some other comments. He said, it's ironic that it was Hamlin that tackled him. The hit wasn't really violent, but he definitely needs to learn to slide and protect from himself. That was the comments that you made, champ. Brendan from the block, Big Ox, and Big Ox Media. By the way, Big Ox, we're gonna try to see what we can do to get you on the Sports PSP pod. Definitely can. But BRF, what were your thoughts about last night's game, and what were your thoughts about Tua's injury?
That scared the hell out of me. That scared the hell out of me, cause the hit itself wasn't a violent shot, but it was the contact, and what scared me was the shock and the trauma his body went through after he hit the ground. Because his right arm, that scared me. When I saw his right arm, I was like, yeah, they gotta sit him. They have to sit him. They need to do what's right. They need to do what's best. They need to look out for his career. They need to sit him. If at the very least, they need to at least sit him for the rest of the season. And really, they need to look at, medically, like what Champ said. They need to seriously consider medically retiring that man and giving him his money, because I believe because Champ in our IG chat actually pointed it out. If he stops playing, but it's like not being forced, he won't get that money. So they need to do right by him. And I mean, I'm basically echoing what Champ said, because he's right on the money with this. The NFL needs to seriously, the players union Players Association, they need to look out for him, because that man's got that he's still got way too long a life to live. He's still got way too much of a future that he can do for family, giving back to community, just stuff that doesn't necessarily have to be football, but just something to make his life mean something in the eyes of the people that mean most to him, which is his family. They need to seriously consider sitting him. They need to seriously consider medically retiring him and give that man his money. Look, I get it. Y'all drafted him to be the future face of the franchise. I get that. And he's coming off his best season as a pro. But he's also coming off concussion after concussion, and he just suffered another concussion. And the reaction after that concussion, when you saw him go down and that right arm stiffened, that scared me. That was like Ryan Shazer scaring me. It was that serious. They need to, yeah. And honestly, if I'm him, and the egos of these athletes. You know how they're made. You know how they're wired. He's going to want to play if he gets the clearance. But if I'm the NFL and if I'm the Miami Dolphins, I'm after this 6 to 8 week stretch that he's like gonna be out for. I seriously sit him down and have a nice long conversation about possibly I get you want to play. Well, you understand your life and your health is more important than this game. If you want your money, we'll give you your money. We don't want you to risk it anymore. I wouldn't be this adamant about it if it wasn't for the reaction his body went through after that hit, because that was not a hard hit. But when you because the thing is, the more that happens, if he keeps playing, the more that happens, the worse, more than likely, those reactions are going to get for who knows what could happen on the next one. They need to seriously consider putting a medically retired label on him and giving him his money and letting him live his life. And if I'm Tua, I'm seriously thinking about it. I'm seriously like thinking about what's best for me and my family at this point. You can't keep going out having concussions like this and thinking you're going to get a long life out of this, or a long healthy life at that out of this. He still has too much. He still has too long of a life to live to let football to let exactly. He's 26 years old. He's 26 years old. He's still got way too much life to worry about as far as like letting the game like football. This is a kid's game still at the end of the day. Worry about you, worry about your family. Now I feel like if I'm him, this is the time to really look into protecting myself, and the NFL and the Miami Dolphins organization needs to protect him as well. They need to seriously consider sitting him down and medically retiring him. I'm with Champ. I echo everything Champ says.
Yeah, I mean, no one can disagree with what Champ said, man. I mean, as much as I would love to see Tua play on the field, but at the same time, considering his durability history, is it really worth it? You've had 3 concussions with the Miami Dolphins. You had a concussion at the University of Alabama. Big Ox said, no way I give him all that money to not play, especially since he won't slide to protect himself. $20 million severance package seems about right. But my thing is, look, with Tua, I mentioned he's 26 years old. He's now a father. He has a kid. He has so much to look forward to in life. And the last thing you want to hear is something horrible happening to him mentally, physically. I would have to seriously consider retiring if I'm Tua, because how much more punishment could I honestly take? And if I'm Miami, although I gave him all this money, you're going to have to start fresh and you're going to have to draft yourself another quarterback. You're probably not going to get a top tier quarterback, but is it really worth putting Tua's life on the line? And Tua may not want to do that because, again, the competitor, the athlete in him, Champ, you would know that. You've mentioned yourself, you're an amateur athlete. But at the same time, do you really want to suffer? Do you really want not only you to suffer, but do you also want your family, your friends, people, loved ones around you as well? because they want you to be around as long as you can. So Tua and the Miami Dolphins, they have a lot to consider, and it's really unfortunate because it wasn't even that much of a brutal hit, but the moment he went down, he was laying down, I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah. I'm gonna just be real. Hey, look, what's the baseball player's name that they call him Bonita? Is that his name?
Bobby
Bonilla,
Bonilla.
I think.
Bobby Bonilla. Hey,
Bobby
do
Bonilla.
it like Bobby Bonilla. Miami, do it like that. Work in the look. And the thing is, look, don't trot that young man back out there. Miami, you have enough black eyes on your resume to paint my house.
Oh yeah, let's not forget 2013.
Yeah, and then let's not forget you asking, Dez Bryant what you asked him. Yeah,
prior to the draft.
We ain't forgot.
Yeah.
Let's not forget what you said about when Cap did the whole situation that happened with him. We ain't forgot. Let's not forget how you wasted that team in the early 2000s. We ain't forgot. And among a lot of other things. So the thing is, do the right thing, man. Look, I understand this is a business, but where does your humanity comes in at a certain point? Like I said, NFL, step in. You step in on everything else. You step in on everything else when it comes to these teams. Roger Goodell, this is your chance to prove about your humanity. This is your chance. Because if it was ever a time you had to force somebody to retire, this is it. This is it. Don't sit around here and let the Miami Dolphins trot him back on that field, and the next incident we see with Tua will be a tragedy. Because you can best believe, I'm gonna tell you this: you thought that boycotts was happening during the kneeling. You thought that it was happening during the kneeling. Let him trot Tua back out on that field and some tragic happen. Oh, you're gonna really see some boycotts then. And don't nobody want to hear about
dealing with lawsuits and all that other
stuff.
And no, I just wanted to add something real quick. Like, I get because like in the comment before, Big Ox had said something about no way I pay him all that money. I'd give him a $20 million severance package. I completely get where you coming from, but you also kind of have to look at it. It's a two-way commitment. They gave him that money with the documented injury history. They gave him that money. They didn't have to give him that money, and they gave him that money. So the fact that you can give him that money knowing he had the injury history, if it gets to a point where he needs to stop playing, you need to do right by him. You gave it to him knowing the history. Maybe don't give it all of it to him, but you need to look out for him. You gave him the money knowing his history. You need to look out. You need to look out for him here in case he can't play no more.
Big Ox asked the question what they asked about Dez. Big Ox, I can't give you all the details about that because that's too extreme, but I did send you an article on it on IG. So whenever you have the chance, please go read it. It's really disturbing, to say the least, on what happened in that situation. And JY said, "Champ, you so right." Let's continue on with the Miami Dolphins. Tyreek Hill. There was the video in which the police, they pulled him down. I think wasn't he cited for speeding or careless driving? Yeah, speeding. Or I thought it was reckless driving as well, though. But
it might have been that too. It might have been that too, but I definitely know speeding.
But there was the video in which the Tyreek Hill, he told the police officer, "Don't bang on my window." And the police officer used excessive and physical force, pulled him down to the ground. They arrested him. You saw Tyreek Hill on the floor. You also saw Calais Campbell, also Walter Payton Man of the Year Award winner, was also handcuffed as well. My thing is regarding the whole situation. Look, Tyreek Hill was wrong in that situation for responding to the police. And before anyone goes out to criticize me, look, it's a lesson. And I think LeBron James said it best. Remember, guys, 7 years ago when his house was vandalized, someone spray painted the N-word on his front gate, at his mansion. This was in the NBA Finals in 2017. And he said something: no matter how famous, no matter how successful, no matter how many people admire you, being black in America is tough. So even though Tyreek Hill, even though he is the star wide receiver of the Miami Dolphins, and he's a big time player, rightfully so, going to the Pro Football Hall of Fame, deserves a lot of things. You can't, I mean, at the end of the day, they look at the color of your skin. You black. And at the end of the day, even though you have a lot of things to go forward and look forward to, at the end of the day, you're still reminded of the color of your skin. But at the same time, what the police did, inexcusable. I'm sorry, it's just inexcusable. Physical force. And Tyreek Hill, he demanded that the police officer should have been fired in that situation. I mean, if you're going to pull him over for speeding, just hit him with a ticket and keep it going. It should have not escalated to that point. Unfortunately, it did. It shows you the reality that we have to deal with in America. And it's just really sad. We still have ways to go. We really do. We really have ways to go as a society. And it's just really unfortunate. I hope the police officers are held accountable. And look, I hope it's a lesson to a lot of us, especially with black men. Like, even though with Tyreek Hill's situation, like I said, all the things that he has, they didn't look at Tyreek Hill as the great football player, the star wide receiver of the Miami Dolphins. They looked at Tyreek Hill as every young black man in America. And look, man, with the police, look, I'm just going to be yes, sir, no, sir, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am. If they ask me a question, I'm going to do my best to cooperate with them, and then I'm going to go on with my day. And it's just really sad it had to come to a situation like that. But, you know, I really don't want to discuss this topic, but I feel like, of course, we got to. So, BRF, I'm going to let you go first. What were your thoughts about the video and so much more?
I want to pose this question out there to everybody. Why is it that it seems to me like we're the only ones that's like that people want to throw out the whole, well, if you would have just complied, none of this would have happened. I'm like, we gotta get shot over stuff like this. We gotta get like dragged out our cars. We gotta get, you know, humiliated, risk life because of like simple stuff like that. Where we've seen videos all the time where other people did nowhere near in the line of complying, and nothing was escalated. As a matter of fact, they tried to de-escalate the situation. So that's just a question I'm just posing out there. But I will say this: I think, if anything, Tyreek, I think I remember the video. I think Tyreek has said like, "Well, just give me the ticket and let me go on my way." Like, he didn't seem to be like, he wasn't trying to like escalate the situation. He wasn't trying to make it because he wasn't trying to make it a situation what it was, because he said himself like he wanted to get it and go, because he knew ultimately people were going to recognize him. They were going to start taking pictures, and you never know what would have happened off because of that. And just like I guess if anything, him you keep the I guess you keep the window down. You kind of like, it's so really hard. It's so much stuff to unpack, and then the police officers just did it have to really resort to yanking him out the car? I don't think it had to resort to yanking. I don't think it had to resort to yanking him out the car. I mean, like,
it shouldn't have gone to that point, though.
No, man, no. It shouldn't.
Don't bang on my window. I'm sorry to interrupt you, BRF, but
No,
even
you
if
good, man.
Tyreek said don't bang on my window, does that justify what you did?
No, I mean him saying don't bang on my window does not justify. them yanking him out the car like that. Because what if they yank him out the car and he gets injured? And he gets injured during that
He
whole
said I had surgery on my
situation.
knee, and they telling him.
I'm telling you, man, you get this man hurt before a big game. Let me tell you something. Say what you want. They're not gonna back talk Stephen Ross. I promise you that. If he come up in there talking about what he gonna do to that police station, I guarantee you they won't back talk Stephen Ross. I promise you that, because he got them greenbacks to throw at him, and they will definitely listen in. I'm telling you that much. But I hate seeing this happen all the time. It's just it's just so much that we as a people should really be getting sick and tired of. We should be getting sick and tired of this. But I mean, yeah, but I'm with you though, PSP. At this point, it's just like, okay, what do you want me to do? Okay, I'll do it. Just to avoid anything escalating like that. And it's bad that us as a people, that we have to talk to our kids about how to behave and act when the police come around, to prevent, to protect yourself at all times. Like, it's 2024. Why do we even have to do this? It's because of all the incidents and the people the innocent people that have lost their lives to this stuff. Whether situations were escalated, whether it was people being scared, worried about what the next move was going to be. It's like this system as a whole. I don't want to say nothing too controversial about this, but it's like people wonder why us as a whole, people, I'm gonna just say it, black people as a whole, folk wonder why we losing faith in the system. They wondering why, because this stuff happens too much. And then they always want to come out and justify stuff. It's like, sometimes quit trying to justify, quit trying to put your cape on, quit trying to just say what you think is the obvious, and look at it from the other perspective as well. We have families, we have lives, we have stuff we want to do too, that we want to live to be able to enjoy and see. And I get tired of going into Twitter and looking at the comments. It's the same old shtick every time. Well, if he had to just comply. Well, if he had to just comply. Quit throwing the race card. Quit bringing the race card in it. Well, somebody please tell me, what is it? Because for love of God, I'm still lost trying to figure out what's going on here. What is it? Somebody better tell me that. Somebody need to educate me. Because last time I checked, I'm a 38-year-old black male in America who's had friends fall victim to that stuff. Maybe not death, but be unfairly, non-just treated like that by the cops. I've had friends go through this, and I'm sorry. It's just, when is too much at this point? When does it end?
I don't think
I just need some. And it's just ridiculous. It's ridiculous at this point. It really is.
But BRF, I agree with you. Some people would have thought, after what happened with George Floyd and so many other incidents, okay, we would see much less of this, and it still keep going. Remember what happened with Sonia Massey? She said, "I rebuke you in the name of Jesus," and she gets shot and killed.
Shot in the face.
Go ahead, champ.
I want to read y'all something, and then I'm going to say what I have to say. So, according to the Miami-Dade Police Department records were obtained, the officer received numerous complaints since joining the police force since 1996. Records have shown 6 separate occasions where he was accused of misconduct, including force violation as far as improper procedures. Torres has also been investigated for at least 13 excessive force counts. He has been investigated for 13 excessive force counts. Now, I'm going to say something real quick. Before y'all get on these two young men right here, I would like to say this. I'm a former military police officer. Yeah, I am a former military police officer. I was trained by some of the best police officers in the world. I ain't never seen nothing. Our job was to de-escalate situations, whether that be in garrison or in war. De-escalate, diffuse. And I'm sorry to say, ain't nothing de-escalating or diffusing about snatching someone out of their car because they don't roll the window down. There's nothing diffusing about it. They tell us when you first go through MP training and police training, do you know what your most powerful weapon is? Your mouth. Because your mouth can de-escalate or escalate a situation. People gonna get attitudes every day because you got to realize you are in the real world. People got to go to their job. In Tyreek Hill's case, he was on his way to a game. I could get fined. I could get cut. My career could be over. So the thing is, people are in a hurry. People are trying to get to where they need to be. A lot of things can be diffused if you exercise patience. Exercise patience, not just at your discretion. It's the thing called situational awareness, man. Situational awareness. Pay attention to everything that's going on around you when you're out there. You don't have to snatch nobody out of the car because they get an attitude or roll their window up. Granted, Tyreek Hill has already said he was wrong about rolling this window up and said don't not. He's already said that. But to snatch someone out their car because they say don't hit my window, roll their window up, and you just on a power trip, it's kind of crazy if you ask me. Like I said, I'm not going to say any names. If they're watching, they know who they are. I was trained by guys who was part of SWAT teams when they went to the civilian world, who became chief of police, who became these guys. I was trained by those great men. Some of them are retired here in Georgia, where I stay at right now. Some of them are retired right now where I stay at. I was trained and I deployed with them when I was overseas. Those were great men. So when they say all police officers weren't bad, I have guys that can prove that. But the thing is this, they always taught me personally, especially because of my size. Like I said, I'm 6 feet 250 right now. So the thing is this, said the best thing that you can do is de-escalate and make sure everybody goes home at the end of the day. De-escalate. Said the last thing you want to be doing is putting paperwork down because of an incident that could have been easily brought from here down to here. Like I said, de-escalation is a good thing. Like I said, de-escalation in wartime, peacetime, everywhere. Only thing you got to do, like I said, the most powerful weapon is your mouth. And the thing is this, look, we've seen way too many incidents where, you know, guys are abusing their power, they're throwing their weight around, all types of things. A lot of reform needs to become of this right here, a lot of retraining. Because the thing is, guess what? You have a lot of other methods before you get to that GUN. You got a lot of methods of diffusing it, even in a violent situation, before you get to that GUN. You got a lot of it. And like I said, I'm speaking from experience. This ain't just something I heard. This is something I know. Like I said, I was trained. So, look, there's a lot of things that you can do a lot different out there. Make sure, and at the end of the day, you are there to be of service. To be of service. You're not here to give nobody a hard time. You're not here to, you know, joke off on nobody. You're not here to step on nobody's toes. You're here to offer a service. It says serve and protect, not throw my weight around and at my discretion. Let's practice that a little bit more. Practice that. And maybe everybody will feel a little bit more safer. My thing is, you ain't never heard no, I'm going to just be real. You ain't never heard no songs about the fire department because they don't go around starting fires. You ain't never heard a song about we don't mess with the ambulance because they don't go around putting people in the hospital. The only entity of public service that we see that everybody has a problem with. And the saddest thing is, it's not just the saddest thing is people don't want to point certain out. A lot of other races get, unalived as well. You just don't hear about it. That's the thing. That's the thing. And it's just like, well, more. Okay, and you have, more, besides, outside of the black race, a lot of other races get unalived by people, by the police as well. Okay, and you're okay with that?
I should tell you something.
And you're okay with that?
I should tell you
I'm
something.
just asking, are you okay with that? Because I would be.
Don't use that as a speaking point to speak against the idea of it happens to us all the time. Use it as a uniting point. Don't use it as don't use it as whataboutism. Well, what about, okay, then join the damn fight.
Again, and like I said, your job is to diffuse. I learned this in the military. I learned this when I went to the military police. I went this. Like I said, I was trained by guys. Guys like, hey, de-escalate, de-escalate, de-escalate. It's kind of like showing up to a fight. It's kind of like showing up and a fight going on. Are you going to join in the damn fight, or are you going to sit around here and try to stop the fight and calm it down? Your job is to put out a fire, and it could go either way. And the thing is, you already are at a deficit coming towards that fight anyway, because you're the only one there with weapons that you know of. And so the thing is this, hey, everybody has a job to do, but let's try to be more caring. Let's show our humanity. Show people that, guess what? We can be trusted. Get out there into your community and show some things. Don't just sit around here and be quick on the draw just because you're scared. If you're scared, you shouldn't have got the job. Guess
Facts.
what? When I joined the military back in 2004, what happened 3 years before 2004, BRF, PSP?
9/11 happened.
Yeah.
Exactly. And where was we at in 2004? At war. So guess what? I went inside my paperwork knowing full well what I was getting myself into. Don't be so quick on the draw because you're scared. Because the thing is, if you knew that this was part of the job, you shouldn't have took it if that was going to be the case. Because the thing is, you have so many non-lethal weapons on you to de-escalate that situation before it even gets there. They teach you that at the academy. I know that because I went through it. They teach you that. They teach you about the taser. They teach you about non-lethal force. So guess what? All of these shootings, it shouldn't get to that in the first place because you have so many avenues before you even get there. So when people start complaining about it and talking about retraining, I'm all for it, because guess what? If the first place you're going is to the right hip, then guess what? You haven't been trained properly. Yep. If the first place you're going is to that right hip in order to grab that GUN, that unaliver, you haven't been trained properly, because you're supposed to have different avenues in order to de-escalate. Even engaging in a fight should be the last thing that you should want to do. Makes you look bad, makes the force look bad, makes your agency look bad. So the thing is, look, stop getting into these situations where you're making yourself and your agencies look bad, because it's only going to get worse. Do you really want to find yourself in a situation where people do not trust you and they would rather take justice into their own hands? Because that's where it's going.
Or
in a great word, I mean,
already been.
Yeah. I mean, and I think Flavor Flav, he was saying that back in the day. I'll call a cab because the cab will come quicker. Do you really want people feeling that way? That they don't feel protected? I mean, the young lady that you said, rest in peace, God bless her soul, Miss Sonya Massey. The first thing she said is, y'all ain't gonna hurt me, is it? That should have planted a seed in your mind right there that she didn't feel safe. That should have planted a seed right there. I don't feel safe. First thing I'm trying to make you do is feel safe. You don't have nothing to worry about. We're here to help you. We're here to help. And that's what I think it should be. Be there to help your community, your city, or wherever you at. Stop being so quick on the draw, man. It's not helping your cause. Because in a minute, and this is no laughing matter, things are going to get bad. And we don't want that. Because the thing is, once society loses faith in its public services, then certain things start happening. And I, for one, do not want to see that. And if you don't believe me, look at a lot of other countries and what they go through. Read between the lines and read very, very carefully about what I'm saying. When your community and your country has no longer trust in its public services, then a lot of things start happening that don't need to be happening. Go look up Colombia. Go look at Argentina. Look at a lot of other countries that had all these different incidents happen. Go look it up. You will see it. Read between the lines of what I'm saying. That is food for thought. It's up to you to do the dishes.
Well said, fellas. The situation should have never happened in the first place. To your point, champ, de-escalation. Hope everyone learned the value. Hope everyone learned a lesson from this, and we're just gonna keep on going with the show. I know it was uncomfortable for y'all to discuss it, but I appreciate y'all for discussing it. Appreciate y'all perspectives. Let's continue on with some football, guys. Cleveland Browns versus the Dallas Cowboys. Deshaun Watson, it keeps getting from bad to worse. And in that game against the against the Dallas Cowboys, 24 of 45, 169 yards, a completion percentage of 53.3%, one touchdown, two interceptions, a passer rating of 51.1, followed by a QBR on a scale of 0 to 100, 13 and a half, 13.5. Deshaun Watson looked cooked, and I saw Champ on Brendan from the Block's podcast. Shout out to our guy Brendan from the Block, does a great job of his podcast. Give salutes, and I echo everything Champ said. Hell, it looked so bad for Deshaun Watson. He was so cooked. A former president, he looked worse than the former president who got cooked the other night by Kamala Harris. That's how bad it was for Deshaun Watson the other night. The other day against the Dallas Cowboys. That's how bad it was. I'm sorry, but hey, if you want me to be honest, I'm gonna be honest. I'm gonna be real. I don't care. And to make matters worse for Deshaun Watson, he was hit with another lawsuit of SA. I won't get into I think you know the initials of what it stands for. And if you read the details of that lawsuit, it's pretty disturbing. And it looks so bad for the Cleveland Browns. And meanwhile, my guy Baker Mayfield, on the other hand, in Tampa, is lighting them up. Unfortunately, to my demise against my Commanders. But hey, 24-30, almost 300 yards, 4 touchdowns. And not only for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they're winning the Houston Texans because they received so much draft compensation by trading up Deshaun Watson. They have the quarterback of the future in CJ Stroud, I'm sorry. They have Will Anderson. Look at the amount of draft picks that they have, the cap space, and everything else. To your point, Champ, Cleveland did their due diligence in the offseason, $200 million with the offensive line and the weapons they surrounded Deshaun Watson. All they needed was more than quarterback play, more than competent quarterback play. And it's about as bad. Deshaun Watson looked as bad as Jeff George. That's how bad it was for Deshaun Watson. Either he looked as bad as Jeff George, either he looked as bad as our former president the other night in that presidential debate. He looked about as bad as Jay Cutler. He looked as bad as Jamarcus Russell, all into one. That's how bad Deshaun Watson was. He was basura in that game. And I just don't know how much Cleveland I don't know what to tell you, but hey, you made your bed, you lay in it. You traded all these picks to get Deshaun Watson, pay him $230 million guaranteed, giving him all this amount of money. Cleveland, how do you feel now? And Baker Mayfield's getting the last laugh. Houston Texans are getting the last laugh. And you, unfortunately, still can't find a way to get the quarterback done. Hell, they probably need to call in Joe Flacco right now because we saw the job that Joe Flacco did last year. Hell, I mean, if the New York Giants are going to roll with Daniel Jones for the rest of the season, may want to try calling getting Tommy DeVito or Tommy Cutlets because that's how bad it's been for Deshaun Watson. But champ, I'll let you go first. The floor is yours.
Number one, I want each and every last one of y'all out there in TV land or YouTube land. I'm sorry. I want y'all to go and look at Deshaun Watson's Facebook, his Instagram page, his TikTok page versus a lot of his peers. That's what I want you to look at first. And I want you to look at the contrasting difference between how he rolls on his page and how everyone else rolls. If you look at any football player's page, on whether it be IG, Facebook, etc., it's always about football. Football. They working out. They doing everything they're supposed to do. You go look at Deshaun Watson's page, it's always about something else. You might see him on the bike every now and then, on the treadmill every now and then, but it's always about something else. If you look at Aaron Donald's page last year, it was always about football, him lifting weights, football. If you look at every other quarterback's page or something like that, it's about football or their families. But when you look at Deshaun Watson's page, it's always about something else. Go look at it if you don't believe me. That just goes to show you where his head is at this point. Here's my thing. Deshaun Watson strikes me as a guy that he doesn't really like football. He likes what football brings to him. The invitation to the nightclubs, the invitation to the golf course, the invitation to the events, all the comping at the nightclubs, the supermodel young lady that he has, not to mention, all the money that they just guaranteed him. Now you have another lawsuit on your hands, and here comes the willy-nilly of it all. If you didn't name that lawsuit, that potential lawsuit, when you sign that contract, they can very well revoke that contract. So you better hope and pray that you name that person, that you name that young lady that happened to. Otherwise, you can kiss that money goodbye. And you can kiss your career goodbye. Because I'm going to just be real. And I'm just going to go here. A lot of black quarterbacks don't get a second chapter. Let me say that again. A lot of black quarterbacks throughout the NFL and its history don't get a second chapter. Look what happened to Cam Newton. A lot of them you don't get, as a black quarterback, you don't get a chance to sit in the bench. You either got to be out in front of nothing at all. So the thing is this, like I said, go name the name. Cordell Stewart. The only one that I can think of got a second chapter, and it was long term, was Warren Moon after he left the Houston Oilers. The rest of them, it was in and out. Donovan McNabb, as good as he was for the Philadelphia Eagles, with the 5 straight NFC championship and a Super Bowl, he went to Washington. He was out of there within a year. Even the late great Steve McNair, he was out of Baltimore in a year. As a black quarterback, you're not going to get too many second chapters. So you got to make good on that first chapter. And to your credit, you got 2 chapters. And your first chapter was better than your first one. You went from a team that had Bill O'Brien as your general manager and coach to a coach of the year, a 2-time coach of the year in Kevin Stefanski. You have Myles Garrett on your team. You have a great defense. You have a great offense. You have a hell of a lot of skill players. You have more weapons than Josh Allen. And that's saying something. Your weapons with your offense and your defense or on par with Miami's. They're right up there with them, especially after Nick Chubb's come back. So your weapon, you don't have no excuse. You have no excuse not to succeed. When you look at a lot of quarterbacks in the past, especially black, some of them didn't. Lamar Jackson don't have the weapons that you do, and he's a 2-time MVP. He don't have the receivers that you do. He don't have the running backs that you do. So for you to go from a situation where you were in Houston to go to an even better situation where you have a hell of an offensive line, you have a hell of a plethora of receivers, you have Nick Chubb and good running backs, and you have the #1 defense in the league, you should be ashamed of yourself for squandering this opportunity. And if you really want to be honest, quiet as it kept, you're the reason why Lamar couldn't get his contract up front, because guess what? They were so flabbergasted by you after he won the MVP. Lamar Jackson should have got that fully guaranteed contract, not you. Just being real. Lamar Jackson earned his keep. You didn't earn anything. You did not earn it. You got a second chance, and now you're squandering it. You got one of the best defensive players in the league at the helm. Some of the best defensive players on your team. Denzel Ward, Myles Garrett. Got a hell of a secondary. Got a hell of a defensive line. Got a hell of an offensive line. Got great receivers. And you can't do diddly. And you let Joe Flacco get off of his couch and outperform you. You should be ashamed of yourself. Put Lamar Jackson on that team. Watch what happens. Put Josh Allen on that team. Watch what happens. Look at what Jalen Hurts is up there doing, although he has a bit of a turnover problem. Look at what Jalen Hurts doing with his team. Took him to the Super Bowl. Might be poised to go to another one this year.
Heck, champ, you could say Jared Goff.
Jared Goff made good on his second chance. Going from a good situation to a better situation. Not too many quarterbacks leave and go to a better situation and end up being the highest paid player in history. You have the only fully guaranteed contract in NFL history, and you go squander it like that. And the thing is, it's just like I said, go look at his IG page, go look at his TikTok page, because you got to do research on guys, us being journalists. Look at his page versus his peers' page. You see a lot of the other stuff versus football. If you don't believe me, it's right there for you. You see a lot of other stuff rather than football. But for you to squander your opportunity like this, not even try to get better, and there was even issues after you got injured where you was up in the booth, up in the skybox, rather than on the sideline with your teammates after you got hurt. And then there was even some issues with your rehab coming back this summer. You have been messing up 3 ways from Sunday ever since you got to Cleveland. You should have been a model citizen at this point. You got a fully guaranteed contract and everything. You got a second chance. You should be a model citizen at this point. It shouldn't be nothing but about football. But instead, you're squandering your opportunities. You're making yourself look bad. And guess what? You couldn't hit the ground with a stick right about now. And for you to have like I said, you one of the highest paid quarterbacks. You don't have half the weapons. You have more weapons than Josh Allen. You have more weapons than Lamar Jackson. Hell, you got more weapons. Like I said, your weapons are up there on par with the Philadelphia Eagles, the Miami Dolphins, and the San Francisco 49ers. That's how much depth you have on that team. You have every reason to succeed, but yet you're squandering it. You should be ashamed. And guess what? Like I said, you better hope that you told the truth. You better pray you told the truth, because if you did not, you kiss all that money goodbye. And guess what? Look, they wanted an adult in the room, they got it, but not the kind of adult they wanted. because you're not it.
BRF.
Let me tell you, I don't think I've ever seen a fall from grace like this from a quarterback that was approaching superstar status to what Deshaun Watson is now. I don't think I've ever seen it. And I keep harking back to this. My first viral TikTok video was was after the 2020 NFL season. And I rated Deshaun Watson as the third best quarterback in the National Football League after the 2020 season. It was Patrick Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers, Deshaun Watson, Russell Wilson, and Tom Brady were my top 5 quarterbacks after the 2020 season. And remember, Houston didn't even sniff the playoffs that year. Didn't make the playoffs that year. So to have him as the third best quarterback in the league when the Houston Texans didn't make the playoffs, that says the level that it pretty much showed how good he was that year. And for him to be where he is now, it's all mental. It's all mental. I mean, like missing that full year and then coming back and missing those first 11 games. Okay, I get that. I'll let you have that. But it's just, I don't know, man. It's just like something ain't right with him. It's not all there mentally. It's like I don't think he cares. I don't think he cares about the game like he needs to care about it at this point. Because the thing is you would think a guy with his potential, and I mean regardless of how anybody feels about him, you would think a guy with his level of talent being gifted this opportunity with the Cleveland Browns would go out and do something with this. He hasn't done a damn thing with this team. Hasn't done a thing with this team. And if I recall correctly, he has a winning record as the Cleveland Browns quarterback. That's the craziest part about the whole situation. He has a winning record as the Cleveland Browns quarterback, as bad as he's looked in some games. That shows the team he has around him as well. But I mean, it's astonishing how cooked he looked. It's astonishing where he was to what he is now, and it's like if it's the lawsuits. I don't know what it is, but for me, I feel like it's mental. And gosh, I feel like the theme of the night with a lot of these topics have just been like they need like soul searching. He's another one. He needs to do some serious looking at himself and understand, try to figure out what he really wants from this. Because I promise you know how many free agent quarterbacks would kill to have the opportunity to be the quarterback of the Cleveland Browns with the depth of that team. I mean, they practically got. They pretty much pulled. If you want to say it, they pulled Joe Flacco off the scrap heap last year, and this man wins comeback player of the year, playing just like a handful of games. Like, if Joe Flacco could get pulled out the scrap heap and do what he did, bro, you are a more talented quarterback than Joe Flacco. What are you doing looking this bad? You have no excuses at this point. None. You have none. And here's the crazy part, champ. He was this close to being ours. If Cleveland Browns don't throw $230 million at Deshaun Watson, he's wearing an Atlanta Falcons uniform right now. That's the only reason why he's not. That's the only reason why he's not in Atlanta right now. Cleveland threw $230 million of guaranteed money at him. That's the only reason why he's not in Atlanta right now. And that's one thing Falcons fans need to realize. They're complaining about their situation. We almost had that. Yeah. So we need to be a little grateful and thankful. We haven't had the greatest situation in the last couple of years, but at least it's not what Cleveland's got. On top of the bad play, on top of the lawsuits, just a PR nightmare. PR nightmare. You give him that type of money, and he hasn't validated you one iota. So it's just a matter of. If you're Cleveland, what do you do at this point? What do you do? I feel like you're stuck. You're stuck. You're stuck. You're stuck. That's practic at this point. It's practically dead money because it's fully guaranteed. You could do absolutely nothing with that money to be able to try to upgrade or get pieces for the rest of your team. You're stuck. Meanwhile, Baker Mayfield is having the time of his life with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, looking at you, laughing to the bank and laughing hard. I mean, he won you a playoff game in Pittsburgh, nonetheless. Won you a playoff game in Pittsburgh. I'm talking about one of the worst beatdowns I've ever seen a team give another team, and he was at the forefront of that. Almost beat the Kansas City Chiefs in the playoffs. And now he's in Tampa making $140 million for playing the best ball of his career. And now you're stuck with $230 million, giving it to a guy who you're not even sure if he really wants to play football. That's how I feel about Deshaun Watson. I don't think he knows if he wants to play, and he needs to look at himself. Yeah, what's up, champ?
Let me ask you something, man, real quick.
Shoot
let me
it,
ask both of y'all something. After you leave a situation like you did in Houston, after you leave that situation and the situations around you, your name gets cleared or what have you, charges get dropped or whatever. Don't you think it's time to do some soul searching as you walk into your new beginning, as you're getting that new contract? Because essentially, you got let off the hook. You got let off the hook, number one.
Thank you.
You got let off the hook, number one. You didn't dodge a pew-pew. You dodged an atomic bomb. You dodged an atomic bomb.
Champ, you would think after what you went through,
yes,
you would think, man, there's no way. I got a brand new opportunity. I'm in a much better situation in Cleveland than I was in Houston. I have a far better chance of competing and getting to a Super Bowl. But at this point, he shot. And there's nothing. And again, this is on Cleveland. They made their bed. They lay in it. They knew exactly what they were getting themselves into. Remember, Deshaun Watson, he could have went to other teams, exercised his no trade clause. Remember, he did have that. But Cleveland, you gave him $230 million, and you brought up the point with Baker Mayfield. They said they wanted an adult in the locker room. How do you feel about Baker Mayfield now? Because you told me before, Tampa, it all comes down to coaching. It comes down. Shout out to Sean McVay, because for whatever reason, after Los Angeles, man, you got the best out of Baker Mayfield. And during his time in Los Angeles, you got something from Baker. The Raiders game, the Broncos game, and the Christmas game. And when you look at Deshaun right now, man, he looks bad. He is about as bad as Daniel Jones.
Man, I don't know what he need. I don't know what he need to do at this point. I don't know what he need to do at this point. Do we need to go? I mean, do we need to pull a Trump? Do we need to go to Springfield, find some dogs, cats, or something? I don't know what he need to do.
You can argue that Daniel Jones is better because the thing is, look, Daniel Jones.
I ain't gonna go that far. I ain't gonna go that far.
Hear me out on this. At least when you talk about Daniel Jones, you can say he doesn't have a line. He doesn't have Saquon anymore. He doesn't have the only receiver that he has is Malik Neighbors. His organization is dysfunctional. His coach is good, but not great as Kevin Stefanski. And that defense has not come together as a unit yet. I can put some reasoning behind Daniel Jones being as bad as he is. I can't put no reason behind Deshaun Watson being as bad as he is. I cannot. You got a whole offensive line. Look, you got a good offensive line that can protect you. That's where it starts. You have the wide receivers, you have the backs, you have the defense. Daniel Jones has none of that. He has none of that.
I'm with you, but
the argument that at this stage, Daniel Jones has an excuse. Deshaun Watson does not.
But the reason why I'm not taking Daniel Jones over Deshaun Watson is, for me, it's a simple fact. It's the standpoint. For me, with Deshaun Watson, it's all mental. Daniel Jones, at this point in his career, you can put him in any system and he's still going to be trash.
That's still mental.
But he's garbage. He's garbage. He's garbage. He's the reason Saquon Barkley is in Philadelphia right now. Remember, the defense was on point last year, and he was still garbage. He's only had one good season where you were practically carried by your running game and your defense. You won a playoff game in Minnesota. I'm not going to go that far. I feel like Daniel Jones at this point is who he is. You put him in any system, he's not a good quarterback. I'm not going to go that far to say Daniel Jones is better than Deshaun Watson. I'm not going that far. But I hear what Champ coming from. I'm not ready to say that.
BRF,
I think Daniel Jones is the worst starting quarterback in the National Football League.
BRF,
I think
if Deshaun Watson keeps having more performances like this, we may start to have a conversation. Is he starting to look much worse than Nathan Peterman?
He'll never. Don't. I mean, he's trash, but don't do him. He's trash, but don't do him like that.
I mentioned Jeff George. I mentioned Jeff George. Did I not mention Jeff George?
Jeff, you can do that because Jeff George was at least a talent. He like see where you're coming from the mental thing. Jeff George was just, when it came to football IQ and all that other stuff, he was a child up here. He had all the physical gifts in the world, but he was a child up here when it came to the football IQ part of the game. So I'm not. Don't throw Nathan Peterman on here. No one deserves that. Now, if he keeps playing like this, we're gonna say, man, that's an insult to Nathan Peterman. If he keeps playing like that, because at least we know what Nathan Peterman is. It's just a shame how far he's fallen in 4 years. It's crazy how far he's fallen in 4 years. It's ridiculous. And I know, and I know, and a lot of it is self-inflicted. Don't get me wrong, but you would think at the very least, this new lease on life, going to Cleveland, I'd be fully focused. I'm giving them no doubt as to why you giving me this money. I'm showing you why you giving me this money. Cleveland's like, damn, we stuck with this for 4 more years. We're stuck with this.
Into that picture, I might as well throw Jameis in the fire because if Deshaun Watson keeps having performances like this, I'm throwing in Jameis in the game.
Yes, he plays like this the first month of the season. I'm seriously considering starting Jameis Winston. He plays like this the first month of the year. Like, for real, I'm with you. And if you start him, and if you start Jameis Winston, I don't know how, but you better get ready to find a way to eat some of that money and trade Deshaun Watson if you start Jameis Winston in the offseason. I don't know how you gonna do it, but if you start Jameis Winston, Deshaun Watson's career in Cleveland is done, dusted, wrapped.
What you gonna get for Deshaun Watson? You probably ain't gonna get government cheese.
Let me tell you something. There's a team. There are teams out there that are crazy enough that will give you draft capital for Deshaun Watson. There are teams out there that are crazy enough to do it. Las Vegas Raiders. But I digress.
We see
anything you want to add, Champ?
My thing is this: for you to go from a large, you know what the thing is. I can understand the trappings of life getting involved with you when you go to certain cities. When you go to Atlanta, Houston, Miami, stuff like that, the trappings of life have a way of finding you. And you go, well, wait a minute. Let me rephrase that. You go find the trappings of life because guess what? They're right there for you. It's right up in your face. But for you to go from Houston to Cleveland, that is a small market. I mean, even J.R. Smith, who was, the party man in New York City. He said when he went to Cleveland, look, there's not a lot more that I can do in Cleveland. So I just concentrate a little bit more now that I'm up there than when I was in New York. I mean, that's not the trappings of life is not in Cleveland like it was in Houston. So my thing is this: you need to get yourself together because right now your head is somewhere so far that you can't even see the light of day. Because right now, like I said, you went from Ken O'Brien and, you went from Bill O'Brien having that coach and having that regime down there, which was a disaster. Now you're in an even better situation. And one thing I will hate to see happen, I would hate to see Myles Garrett's career get wasted, much like the last part of J.J. Watt's career. That's 2 careers that you've wasted. 2. You wasted the last part of J.J. Watt's career, and now you're wasting arguably one of the best defensive players we've seen since Derrick Thomas's career because you can't hit the ground if you fell on it. That's sad.
Very unfortunate. All right, fellas, let's move on to NFL picks for week 2. Giants at the Commanders. The Commanders are 1.5 point favorites. Hell, I'm picking the Giants to win in this one. I have no faith. Even though Daniel Jones is starting, I'm going to be honest with y'all. If Tommy DeVito were actually starting, I'd be more concerned. I'd be more concerned if the New York Giants actually won that game. If Tommy DeVito, no, I'm serious, champ. I'm dead serious. I would be way more concerned if Tommy DeVito were starting for the New York Giants than Daniel Jones. I just don't trust the defense. Look, I hope that the Commanders pull off a victory. Unfortunately, I won't watch the rest of that game because I will be at work that day. But I would not be surprised the Commanders lose. BRF, you go first.
I wouldn't be surprised if the Commanders win. I told you I have no faith in Daniel Jones. None at all. I think he's the worst starting quarterback in the National Football League. I have no faith in him. At least that first game against Tampa, Jaden Daniels at least showed me a little something. I mean, we obviously knew he had the ability to run. He's one of the best athletes at the quarterback position in the league. We know that. He actually showed me a little something throwing the ball. I think they need to get Terry McLaurin involved more early and often for one thing in this game. Like I don't know. I don't trust the Giants in any facet of the game. I'm actually going to pick Washington to win this game.
Champ?
Hey, in the great words of Snoop Dogg and Dr. Dre, I got to go with the wash.
All right. Colts at Packers. Colts are 3-point favorites. Packers haven't ruled out whether Jordan Love is going to play or not, but I'm going to go with Indy for the victory in this one. I had Indy to win that game against the Houston Texans. I was wrong. Anthony Richardson, my God, he made a beautiful throw. The deep ball. I think the Colts should win this one because there's a possibility Jordan Love may not play in that game. And Green Bay's offense kind of looks sloppy against the Philadelphia Eagles, albeit in the season opener. But I have the Colts win this one. I have it like more 23-20. Champ.
I'll say the Colts because I don't think they're going to trot Jordan Love out there as quick as possible like that. I mean, I understand he just got paid, but guess what? Hey, I'd rather lose you for a 1 or 2 weeks than to lose you for a whole season and risk permanent damage. You know, we saw what happened with the RG3 situation. So let's not jump the gun, Green Bay. You know, hey, suffer now. Hey, play later. So, hey, I'm going to take Anthony Richardson and the Colts on this one.
BRF?
I want to say it's already been announced that Malik Willis is going to start and that I think Jordan Love is going to miss a few weeks. I think that's already came out. I have to check source or whatever, but I think I did read something about that. And with that alone, I'm picking the Colts to win this game because if you saw Malik Willis in Tennessee, you'll understand why this is not a good sign for the Green Bay Packers going with him as a quarterback. I got 24-17 Colts here.
All right. Next game, Raiders at Ravens. The Ravens are 9-point favorites. It's pretty obvious Ravens for the victory, considering that they're at home. All right, so we ain't got to waste our time with that one.
Nah.
Browns at Jaguars. Jaguars are 3-point favorites.
Oh, this game is hard to pick.
I'm taking Trevor.
Who you taking?
I'm taking Trevor and the Jags. I ain't finna put my faith in Deshaun Watson.
I don't have faith in the Jacksonville. but I don't have faith in the Jacksonville defense either. I feel like I'm going to regret doing this. Oh, I'm going to pick Cleveland and go into Jacksonville and do this because I don't trust the Jacksonville defense. I feel like he's going to make me regret this, but I'm going to put my neck out there. I got Cleveland winning this game.
I got Jacksonville in that one. Jets at Titans, and the Jets are 3.5-point favorites.
Ew. Look, they bounced back. I'm hoping Aaron Rodgers, I have not been a big fan of yours throughout this offseason on how you conducted yourself and things of that nature. But I truly hope that's one of the all-time greats that you make a lie to be. So with that being said, I'm going to go with the Jets because I'm hoping that you prove me wrong. But if you don't, I'm going to chirp about
it. BRF.
This is a game for me. The way I feel like this game is going to go, this is one of those games Tennessee's going to hang around for all 4 quarters. This game screams like it's going to be a 3-point game. I ultimately have the Jets. I think the Jets should still win this game just because ultimately I feel like they have more talent on both sides of the ball, which is what it's going to come down to. But this is one of these games where the Titans play up the competition. This is going to be a good game. But I got the Jets in this one. How many 3-point favorite?
The Jets in that game, they are 3.5. 3.5.
I'm gonna pick a. I think they can cover this. I'm gonna go Jets, and I think they can cover that.
Give me the mayonnaise, man, and I'll be just all right. I'll make sure I have some extra mayonnaise for my sandwich. 49ers and Vikings. And remember, folks, no Christian McCaffrey in that game. This will be the second consecutive time this season he will be out with an injury. But remember, the backup running back handled himself very well. Who was the backup running back?
Destroyed the Jets.
Yes.
Jordan Mason.
Jordan Mason from Georgia Tech.
Well over 100 yards.
Jordan Mason from Georgia Tech.
Team. I got San Fran in this one.
Let me say one thing real quick. Congratulations to our Atlanta Braves. We beat the LA Dodgers tonight, 62. So good job, guys. On that note, I will honestly say, man, look, that zone blocking scheme makes mediocre running backs look great and makes great running backs in the Hall of Famers. And on that note, I will say this. If you're smart, Kyle Shanahan, you'll keep running the ball. If you're smart. But I know you ain't.
Yeah, as long as San Francisco's packing that offensive line, oh my gosh. As long as they're packing that offensive line, as long as they're packing that zone running scheme that Kyle Shanahan throws out there. It honestly, yeah, it's like Champ says. They make mediocre running backs really good, and they turn really good running backs into some of the greatest in the history of this league. So, I mean, yeah, you gotta, yeah. I mean, honestly, for a FanDuel tip out there, if you want to play the San Francisco 49ers defense, this is actually a good game to do it because people are like, look at what Minnesota did in game 1. That was the New York Giants. The San Francisco 49ers are a different beast of defense. So if you want a fantasy tip out there, play the 49ers defense this week. I think you might come out good playing them. I got the 49ers winning this.
All right. Next one. Chargers at Panthers. Chargers are a 5-point favorites.
I think Chargers. I gotta go Chargers.
We roll deep in LA.
Chargers it is. Interesting game right here. Seattle at New England, and Seattle is a 3-point favorite.
Shout out to Brandon. I'm taking Seattle.
BRF?
New England showed me something against Cincinnati. I'm actually picking the Patriots here.
I'm going with the Patriots too, because I think OJ Mayo has done a really good job of coaching this team, even with Jacoby Brissett at quarterback, because I thought it was going to be Drake May, but hey, they're finding ways to win. And Christian Gonzalez, boy, he did his job against Jamar Chase last week.
They have a healthy Christian Gonzalez and they have a healthy Ramondre Stevenson.
And where did Ramondre Stevenson went to? OU.
OU.
And the best comparison I had for him coming out of OU, Eddie Lacy. Remember how good and effective Eddie Lacy was going back to his days at the University of Alabama in his first 2 years with the Green Bay Packers? Go look at Ramondre Stevenson.
Yeah. Before Eddie Lacy got hungry.
Hey man, he was a good running back. I mean,
trust me, he was an awesome running back. But hey, as a big fella myself, sometimes them temptations are hard to resist.
He from New Orleans. He from New Orleans.
The oxtails, man.
He from New Orleans.
That gumbo, that oxtail, that gumbo, that jambalaya, boy. Hey man, they were doing work.
Speaking of New Orleans, Saints at Cowboys, and the Cowboys are 6-point favorites in this one. I got Dallas.
Love you, Mom. Dallas.
This one is an interesting one. Rematch of the NFC divisional round. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers at the Detroit Lions. Detroit is a 7.5-point favorite.
It's going to be a shootout like last time, but I got Detroit.
Detroit and who now?
Tampa Bay.
Detroit.
And I think you know what I'm about to go to.
I think it's going to be a shootout like that playoff game was too, though.
Yeah.
Yes, Baker actually played well in that game. He just made one mistake with that pick, though. But overall, I thought he played well. Rams at Cardinals. Cardinals are coming off a tough loss to the Buffalo Bills. The Cardinals are a 1-point favorite. Rams are also coming off a tough loss Sunday night to the Detroit Lions. Kyler Murray has received a lot of flack last week for missing Marvin Harrison Jr. on that wide open play. BRF, who wins this one?
I'm gonna go Rams. I'm gonna go Rams here.
Champ?
I don't think the Cardinals have the firepower in order to keep up with the Rams, especially even with Puka Nacua out. I don't think they do. So it's going to be and plus Kyler, do better, bro. Do better. Saying that it's not your job to force something, to force feed somebody, and now your wide receiver, the wide receiver just a rookie, saying he got to come out and do a better job. That ain't a good look. That's not a good look for a quarterback. Come on, Kyler. But I have no faith in him. I've been expressing that the entire time. So
he's been consistent on that. In fairness to Undisputed World Champ, he told me before he did not want Kyler Murray in Atlanta. So let's just take that from the record. And I got Rams in this one. Now, this one is an interesting one. Steelers at Denver.
That ain't that interesting to me. I got
Pittsburgh.
Oh, now you want to go with Pittsburgh after what I told y'all last week? I had Pittsburgh winning that one. I told you.
Atlanta should have won that game. That offensive play calling was atrocious. Atlanta should have won that game. That play calling was.
Arthur Smith was like, thank the good Lord. That ain't me in that situation. I've been taking all the amount of criticism and heat.
No. We do not let Arthur Smith off the hook because he still only put up field goals. It's just that the Falcons play calling was that much worse.
But Hey, at the end of the day, like I said before, man, Mike Tomlin never had a losing record under his watch. And besides, in fairness to Mike Tomlin, last year he did work with Matt Canada as the offensive coordinator. And
Arthur
we saw
Smith
how
ain't
bad Matt Canada
he is not. Arthur Smith is not that much of an upgrade. He
is
is
not that
not
much
that
of
much
an
of an upgrade.
upgrade, but that also tells you how good of a head coach Mike Tomlin is.
Oh,
He
that's a
can
fact.
work with yes, he can work with the worst offensive coordinators or whoever and still find a way to stay 500 or more. The
Mhm.
big one, Cincy at Kansas City, and Cincy is a 6.5 point favorite. Of course, the rematch of the AFC Championship game back in 2023, Chiefs won that one en route to winning the second Super Bowl in the Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid era. Who wins?
Kansas City runs them off the field.
Big champ.
Kansas City run their shoestrings off.
I'm gonna pick Cincy to win this one for the upset. Crazy as it is, I will take it. Interesting game right here, an exciting one. Bears at Texans. Texans are a 6.5 point favorite. Texans have a lot of aspirations, a lot of expectations to win the division and compete in the NFL. Caleb Williams, even after a victory, didn't play particularly well in that game against the Tennessee Titans. Didn't even have 100 yards passing. So who wins? I got Houston.
I got Houston.
Houston. Hey, Houston showed out last week. Let's carry it over to this week. Good job, Houston.
Hey, even though BRF and Champ are from Georgia, they won't mind spending some time in H-Town. I mean, they talk about Magic City all the time, but go to Onyx. Yeah, I mean, that's a nice spot for y'all to go to in Houston. So,
Wow.
and last but not least, big one right here, Monday Night Football, ESPN, Battle of the Birds. Falcons at Eagles, and the Eagles are 6.5 point favorites.
I think that's too many points. Even with how Atlanta looked, I still think that's too many points. This is one of those play up games for the Falcons. I feel they're gonna play much better against the Eagles. With that being said, though, it's on 2 for my boys. I'm picking the Eagles. It's on 2 for my boys. For them to win, Kirk Cousins has to absolutely do what he did to the Philadelphia Eagles last year. And because like I said before, he got hurt. His like the Eagles was like one of his coming up parties. He destroyed them last year. But yeah, I think the boys go 0-2. I got the Eagles here.
Big champ.
I understand that Philadelphia Eagles are the top 3 teams in the NFC right now, man. But in the great words of Lil Scrappy, forever, I love Atlanta. I'm not picking against them. I'm going with Atlanta.
I hope so, champ. I don't know, man. I don't know. Philly is a different animal, man. I hope so too, but I'm thinking. I don't know. I'm thinking kind of a little bit of realism here, but we'll see. I hope they do it. I just don't think
In
they
case
will.
you're wondering, folks, the reason why Undisputed World Champ is still siding with Atlanta is because he loves his Atlanta Falcons, and other than Magic City, he wants to go to Waffle House to have some good meals from Waffle House. Can't be mad at that. Can't be mad at that.
Smothered and covered. That's how we do it. There we go.
Absolutely. Let's get into some entertainment, fellas. It was announced Super Bowl, Kendrick Lamar will be performing in the Super Bowl halftime show. Even though it is great though, but some people, particularly Nicki Minaj, took a huge problem with the announcement of Kendrick Lamar performing in the Super Bowl. Lil Wayne, y'all saw the video. He released a statement saying that he was hurt because, of course, Lil Wayne is from New Orleans, native of New Orleans. I have no problem with Kendrick Lamar performing in the Super Bowl because hey, he's the hot thing right now. I mean, the battle between Drake and Kendrick is hip hop back now. The song "Not Like Us." But at the same time, it is kind of sad though that Lil Wayne doesn't get an opportunity to perform, and especially in the city of New Orleans. Guys, I've been to New Orleans. It is a magnificent city. I've told y'all got to stop at New Orleans. Y'all got to grab the beignets, the crawfish, jambalaya, etouffee, all that good food in New Orleans. I was there for the Beyonce concert last year, a month prior to my birthday. Man, my mom. Shout out to Mama PSP. Mama PSP hooked me up with that little birthday gift. And also one of her good friends, Angie. Love you, Angie. They hooked me up with the Beyonce tickets and we had a blast at the Beyonce show, man. But do y'all have a problem with Kendrick performing at Super Bowl?
Not at all. Not at all. I don't have a problem with this at all because I mean, did anybody watch the WrestleMania performance that Lil Wayne had? That does not. And let me tell you something. Lil Wayne is one of my 5 greatest rappers of all time. He's one of my 5. He's one of my 5 greatest. But I'm sorry, Kendrick Lamar right now is just. I mean, he's got the hottest. He's got the hottest song in the. He arguably has the hottest song in the world right now with "Not Like Us." I mean, the NFL be crazy to not capitalize on that. You have to capitalize on that. Come on, man. You just for the moment of the entire Superdome screaming A minor. Come on, man. You got to do this. You have to do this. And let me tell you, and it's not because we don't love Lil Wayne, because regardless of whether you in Georgia, Florida, the Carolinas, Mississippi, Southern people are about that Lil Wayne. We love us some Lil Wayne down here. But nah, I have no problem with Kendrick Lamar being the halftime show. He's got the hottest song out right now. NFL is a money league. You gotta capitalize on this. Kendrick Lamar, in my opinion, is the right move here.
Big champ.
You know, this ain't the first time. I mean, that he's been. How many times has it been in New Orleans at this point, and they still haven't had him?
Twice. Remember, they had 2013 in New Orleans, the Super Bowl. I think it was Super Bowl 47 between the Baltimore Ravens and the San Francisco 49ers. And Beyonce headlined that one. Last time I checked, Beyonce's from Houston.
Yeah. But they've had plenty of opportunities in order to put them up there, and they haven't. And not to mention, man, look, let's not act like this the first time that the homers have been snubbed. You know, in Miami, they didn't pick Rick Ross. They didn't pick, and I know they didn't pick a lot of other hip-hop artists down there. They didn't pick 2 Live Crew, some of those guys down there. They didn't pick them. So let's not act like the hottest hometown guy. You know, this is not the first time they haven't gotten the nod.
Are you referring to 2020 champ? The 2020 Super Bowl when J-Lo and Shakira were the headliners.
Yeah.
I think they picked them there because of the Latin culture.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I still think that Freeway Rick, excuse me. Sorry, I forgive my disrespect. But I think that Rick Ross and some of those guys who are hot and, during that time deserve the nod. This ain't the first time that hip hop as far as a homer has been snubbed. I mean, Lil Wayne, man, look, I would have loved to have seen him up there, but that performance at WrestleMania, it
does not justify a Super Bowl performance. It does not.
It don't give me a lot of confidence. And you know what? I'm gonna just be real. Even without the cursing, Kendrick got a lot of songs that you can sing, and it's good for television. You don't necessarily have to, But there's a lot of Lil Wayne's popular songs that, you gotta really think twice, especially if you want to have everybody looking at them. You know what I'm saying? Looking at the TV. That's a worldwide audience, so you got to think about that as well. So all the songs that we may want to hear as as our Southern hometown guy, Southern homer, that we may want to hear, the world may not necessarily be able to hear him at a certain point. So I know. So you got to ask yourself that, because like I said, Kendrick has some songs that he can censor enough and it's going to sound good. I don't think Lil Wayne has that repertoire where you can't say certain words and it be suitable for television. You know what I'm saying? So I think that was a consideration for that as well.
If Wayne was actually headlining in the Super Bowl, I would love for him to play one track that I think is suitable for New Orleans. Back that ass up.
After yeah. drop. But look, I hope that eventually he gets the nod, man. But right now, Kendrick is the hottest thing. It's the fastest gun in the West always wins.
Not even close. Go ahead.
And the crazy part about this whole thing is, you want to know what be the craziest part about this? Because Atlanta's in the running for another Super Bowl. How fitting would it be if Lil Wayne was a halftime show for an Atlanta Super Bowl, when you got and then we be complaining then because we got a whole hip hop medley of Atlanta artists that could easily get on the Super Bowl. I feel like that's the biggest. I feel like that was one of the biggest snubs in the history of the Super Bowl. It was that Super Bowl with the Patriots and the Rams in Atlanta.
Coldplay was
and y'all gonna pick Maroon 5 over having a hip hop medley of Atlanta?
I apologize. Maroon 5.
I mean, you gonna pick Maroon 5 over having a hip hop medley in Atlanta? I saw that and I'm like, yo, what are we doing? I'm thinking to myself, T.I.'s got enough of a catalog that he can do a clean song or two. You got T.I., you got Luda, you got Jeezy, you can bring Jermaine Dupri out there. You can bring out it's big Outkast, period. Like what are we doing? So fresh, so clean in the Georgia Dome, boy, I lost my mind.
The reason why I mention it is because Nicki Minaj took to her ex account and she had a lot to say regarding the situation. She said regarding Wayne being snubbed, quote, denying a young black man what he rightfully put into this game for no other reason but your ego. Your hatred for Birdman, Drake, and Nicki got you punishing Lil Wayne, the GOAT. New Orleans was good. Eminem stood firm on having 50 Cent come out. She also posted, I'm not going to use the term, one bleep took a knee, the other bleep took the bag. He gonna get you bleep in line every bleep time. So that was Nicki Minaj's response to Jay-Z announcing Kendrick Lamar to performing in the Super Bowl. Look, my thing is, do I think it's petty on the part of Jay-Z? No. He's making a business decision. And at the end of the day, Kendrick is the hot thing right now in rap. I'm quite sure Kendrick would probably love to bring Lil Wayne to perform in the Super Bowl if he had a chance, although I would strongly discourage it because you don't know how Drake would feel. But at the same time, look, a decision was made. This is not the first time that's happened before. And look, you just got to go with the flow. I have no problem with Kendrick performing in the Super Bowl. Thank God it's not Taylor Swift, for my sake.
I mean, people don't want to take it to this consideration. Jay-Z has nothing against Wayne. In fact, Wayne has come out and said that Jay-Z helped him out with $14 million on his taxes. So, I mean, he doesn't have any problems with Wayne, from what I got to say. So, but the thing is, like I said, I don't think people understand this. Look, and I'm going to just use your show as an example. Somebody offer you $1 million, but they say you got to host it with Cam Newton. Bye, champ. And I get it. It's a business. You're going to attract a hell of a lot more people with Cam Newton than my behind sitting right here. I'm just going to be real with you. So if that was to happen, look, thank you. I appreciate it. Hey, time to move on.
Nothing personal.
Nothing personal.
Wish you well. I'm telling you, I'll be more than happy for you to look me in the face and say, I'd be more than happy
Hey,
for you
you
to
got
look me in the face
I
and say,
got
"I wish
replaced
you
by
well in your
Cam
future
Newton.
endeavors."
Yeah, I got replaced by Cam Newton. I'm just being real. I got replaced by Cam Newton. Hey man, I used to be on PSP, man. Who was your replacement? Cam Newton. Damn. Okay, cool. This a business, man. And the business right now is everybody is making spoof songs out of Kendrick Lamar's song. You know, they making spoof songs out of it. They making fun of Jonathan Majors dancing to it. It's the hottest thing since in the club right now. It's the
Remember
hottest
when they
song
played the
since in
song
the
"Not
club.
Like Us"? They played that song 5-6 times, and DeMar DeRozan and Russell Westbrook,
Yeah,
LeBron
Steph
was even
Curry,
there. Yeah,
yeah. It
they were
brought
tired of it.
the whole city of LA was on fire. The whole city of LA was on fire. Every basketball player, every celebrity was out there with the city of Los Angeles. The city of Los Angeles, when Kendrick Lamar put that concert on, was the center of the universe at a certain point. So the thing is, you're gonna go with the fastest gun. Like I said, it's no different than them saying, "Hey, man, look, PSP, we're gonna give you $1 million a year, man, but we're gonna want you to host it with Cam Newton." Cool. All right, then, man. Thank you for everything you did. I see y'all on the Undisputed GOAT podcast. No problem. I got replaced by Cam Newton. This is a business. So I'm not finna feel some type of way because the hottest guy in the industry right now is replacing me on the biggest stage. He's hot. And like I said, hey, you have the concert in order to back it up. People who don't even watch football, the casual fan, is gonna be tuned in to this because of Not Like Us. I mean, simply because they know he's going to perform that song. So guess what? This is a business decision. I want eyeballs on that screen. Who am I going to put on there? Kendrick Lamar. Yes, everybody knows Lil Wayne, one of the greatest artists, one of the greatest Southern artists of all time. I mean, I put him right up there with Jay-Z as far as lyrically is concerned, maybe even above him.
I put him above Jay-Z lyrically.
Well, that's another story for another day. But,
yeah, I don't think it's crazy.
I don't think it's crazy, but it's another story for another day. But
yeah, I feel you.
I put him right up there. But as far as right now, who has the fastest gun right now, who is the hottest right now is Kendrick. Kendrick is hot right now. And guess what, man? You're going to strike when the iron is hot. And people are already going to, people are already saying, man, I can't wait to see what song he's going to perform. I can't wait to see it. Can't wait to see it. And that's what you want. You want a buzz around the show. You want, to see the hottest artist right now. And like I said, people who are not, folks who are just casual hip hop fans, who are just casual football fans are going to gravitate to that show. And that's what you want. Granted, we all love the hardcore things about hip hop. We wanted to stay true to its roots, especially in a city like New Orleans, considering the history of New Orleans, Katrina and all of that. But, we got to go with the fastest gun in the West right about now. You got to go with the fastest gun, and Kendrick is that fast gun at this point.
Can't argue there. Speaking of Kendrick, let's continue on. Favorite Kendrick Lamar song? I'm gonna go first. I love the album To Pimp a Butterfly. You Ain't Gotta Lie. I love that track. King Kunta. That's my favorite. That's another track that I love. And then the song Loyalty with Rihanna. Love that track. Those are like my 3 favorite tracks from Kendrick. But To Pimp a Butterfly, and I was listening to it during my time in the Philippines. That was like one of my favorite albums. If you want to listen to an album in terms of the wordplay, in terms of what Kendrick is speaking for, such as the issues that we as Black people go through, I mean, listen to Pimp a Butterfly. That album is marvelous as far as Kendrick's wordplay, the rhythm, the beat, the melody. To Pimp a Butterfly is my favorite album. But my 3 favorite songs from Kendrick: Loyalty with Rihanna. I would have to say You Ain't Gotta Lie and King Kunta from Kendrick Lamar. BRF. What's your favorite Kendrick Lamar song?
Whoo, my gosh. Mm, if I had to pick one, man, I don't know. It's no because you got Don't Kill My Vibe, you got Poetic Justice, you got Humble, you got Loyalty, you got Love. But honestly, if I gotta pick one, just probably The Recipe.
Oh, with Dr. Dre, that one.
Yes, probably The Recipe. Yeah, even though that was like one of his first like real banger tracks, like I just it's something about that song and the beat and how it carries and just even though he's had a lot of great songs since then but for me the recipe for me with Kendrick is always that go to for me when I need a good Kendrick Lamar song to vibe to. I always seem to go to that one before any other one. So my favorite is probably The Recipe.
Champ?
I know a lot of people that smile in my face, but talk behind my back every time I'm gone. So when they call my number, I don't ever pick up. I don't know you. You know the rest. Hey, Spiteful Chat, man. Spiteful Chat is my favorite Kendrick Lamar song of all time. And it's so different because that beat is so different. It sounds like you're getting ready to go into a gladiator stadium. You know, it's just like they actually did a video on YouTube with a whole bunch of animals going in and out of the. That song was something special because everybody can relate to that song, man. Spiteful Chat, man, that is something special. Not only that, man, swimming pools. I got a swimming pool full of liquor. Let me dive in. Yes, man. Look, promise that you will sing about me. Fingers that you will sing about me. That song right there. If you ever want to hear the storytelling of Kendrick Lamar, you got to go with that one. I mean, so many stories told in just one song. Not to mention on the second part of that song, him teaming up with MC8, paying homage to the old school, Compton's Most Wanted. Not to mention, people don't understand the beat on that song, on the second part of that song, is Ice Cube's song, Bird in the Hand, that came from Boys in the Hood. So, man, look. And Kendrick, and man, look, when you talk about paying homage, Kendrick is a master doing that, man. He always paying homage to the old school, bro. So I mean, Kendrick, man, like I said, man, there's so much. I think that one could argue Dre has had a lot of great proteges, man, from DOC to Snoop to Eminem to Game. Can't leave Game out of there, regardless of how people may feel about him. Game, now Kendrick. And I can honestly say, I mean, don't forget 50 Cent as well. And I can honestly say, man, out of all of them, Kendrick is right up there. Kendrick's right up there. I mean, Dre has a knack for just finding these great talents. And like I said, it started with DOC, you know. But as time goes on, the wordplay, the storytelling gets even better. And it's just like he went from DOC to Snoop to M to 50 to Game, now Kendrick. You know, Dre has a way with artists, man. And, you know, give Dre his flowers, man, because some of the best we've ever seen started with Dre, man, you know, to include NWA. So, man, look, if you want to talk about Dre's proteges, Kendrick got to be right up there, man. So,
without question. And one last one for wrestling. Favorite Teddy Long moment? Champ, you go first.
Tonight, you will go one-on-one with The Undertaker. You think you finna have a good night and just chill out. But when he came out and said, tonight you're going to go one-on-one with The Undertaker, no matter who it was against, especially when he came out and said it with JBL, when he had the cabinet with him. That was something special. And speaking of JBL was ahead of his time. We will put it that way.
As a heel.
JBL was ahead of his time as a heel, because go back and look at JBL and then look at CNN. You'll see my point. So
BRF.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Man. Favorite Teddy Long moment. Okay. It's the moment where he's trying to get away from the Undertaker, and he gets in the limo, and then but it's not moving, and all of a sudden the Undertaker lets the window down, and he looks back and he's like, "Where to, Teddy?" And Teddy's just like, like it's one of those because it's one of those you don't think the Undertaker could. With that character, you don't think the Undertaker can have some funny moments like that, but I still crack up every time I see that moment. And then it was that, and then he was always making the 6-man tag team main events, and you know what? A moment that no one talks about is the dang when he married Crystal and had a heart attack. Had a heart attack in the ring. Oh my gosh. Teddy Long.
Don't forget Jagged Edge performing.
Had Jagged Edge performing at that wedding. People sleep on Teddy. People sleep on Teddy Long. Teddy Long was in my opinion, he's probably the best SmackDown general manager before Nick Aldis and what he's doing for SmackDown now. But man, Teddy Long, boy, he gave us a bunch of good memories, and particularly when he first became general manager of SmackDown, and they let him go out there and cut those promos, and some of the stuff he was saying, in particular to Eric Bischoff, man, underrated guy on the mic early on the SmackDown when they just let him go out and do his thing. Teddy Long could cut some. Teddy Long would surprise you and cut some good promos early in the SmackDown days. Now, one of them promos, I can't repeat what he said to Eric Bischoff. That's another conversation. But still, Champ probably know what I'm talking about. Champ probably knows what I'm talking about. But we'll just leave it at that. But no, yeah. Those are a couple of my favorite Teddy Long moments. Oh boy!
I think I know where Champ knows where I'm going to. Favorite Teddy Long moment. I sent him a video on this a few days ago. Stone Cold Steve Austin chasing him with the ATV. And remember Jonathan Coachman's comments?
Yeah, there's Jonathan Coachman. He was always coughing. That I can't even get it out.
That was hilarious though. But Teddy, man, he was great though as a general manager in SmackDown, and also too as a referee, man. But that Jagged Edge performance in that wedding though, that was kind of special. I mean, for WWE, man, that was fine though. That was fine. But anyway, folks, that concludes the rest of the Sports PSP podcast. Appreciate BRF Sports. Appreciate Undisputed World Champ for hopping on to the podcast. Fellas, any final words, and tell them where to follow y'all at.
Champ, I'll let you go first.
As always, a privilege, a pleasure, and an honor to be on the Sports PSP podcast, man. Almost to 17,000. We will say we're gonna give you the higher number. We ain't gonna go lower, we're gonna go higher. You're doing a hell of a job. Thank you for paving the way for guys like myself and BRF. Like I keep telling people, if it wasn't for PSP, there would not be an Undisputed GOAT podcast. So, hey, thank you for that. And look, rest in peace to the late great James Earl Jones.
Oh yes, I'm
Trailblazer.
sorry, folks. Before we end off the show, y'all get a chance for final moment for James Earl Jones.
Oh, like a favorite moment.
Any moment, a favorite moment.
I feel like one of the greatest voice acting performances I've ever heard, and still is to this day, is James Earl Jones as Mufasa in The Lion King. It's one of the greatest. It's one of the greatest voice acting performances ever, and just the power and just the aura he commanded. And even though Mufasa, it's for me, it's still the saddest cartoon death in the history of movies when Mufasa died. I don't care what anybody says. That's one of the few movies that actually made me cry a little bit was when Mufasa died, like straight up. But just the aura and his power, just this James Earl Jones to me is like, if I wanted someone to narrate my life, he would be he would have been it. His voice would have been the voice to narrate my life, because it's iconic, and it's just, even though he's not with us anymore, all of his performances and being able to hear him speak is just something that's going to live on throughout the test. Throughout the test of time. It's never, his legacy will never be diminished. And yeah, just for me, his performance as Mufasa for me just really, it really stands out, because you wouldn't expect a voice performance like that to command so much power and admiration, but him as Mufasa does it every time for me. And the fact that they let him do the voice of Mufasa in the live action version, that tells you everything you need to know about how powerful of an actor he was. That tells you all you need to know right there.
Big Champ.
Hey man, I'm a Star Wars fan, so Darth Vader is everybody's favorite villain and everybody's favorite voice. There's only 3 voices in my lifetime that are just very distinct when it comes to anything. And that's James Earl Jones, Gilbert Gottfried, and I gotta say Morgan Freeman. And I put Samuel Jackson up there. But when they say, there's always these memes going around on the internet. When they say you can't hear pictures, if you put a picture of Gilbert Gottfried, you can hear it. If you put a picture of James Earl Jones, you can hear it. If you put a picture of Samuel Jackson, you can hear it. If you put a picture of Morgan Freeman, you can hear it. And those are very, very distinct voices that you hear. A lot of people can't stand out with their voice. You can stand out with your body language, you can stand out with your gestures, but for someone to hear your voice and say, that's so-and-so, that was those 4 guys, and no one did that better than James Earl Jones, man. A straight up trailblazer from day one. People don't understand that before Denzel Washington played, the father from Fences. Yes, he played Fences. And let's not forget, narrated the life of the first Black world heavyweight champion in Jack Johnson. It hit one of his early movies, The Great White Hope. So let's not forget that. Narrated Jack Johnson's life, the late great one. So, hey, man, trailblazer to the max, man. A distinct voice that you all the C notes in the world can't buy you a voice like that and a presence like that. So I gotta say Darth Vader, and I will say Mufasa, piggybacking on BRF, man.
Favorite James Earl Jones moment coming to America. Favorite Eddie Murphy movie. The father of Prince Akeem. So I love that movie. The part in which they confront Arsenio Hall's character once they found out that they were in Queens the entire time. I'm not going to get into all the specific details of that scene. You'll find out yourself. Chap knows exactly what I'm referring to based on his laughter, and so is BRF Sports. But man, James Earl Jones, and I also like the movie Welcome Home, Roscoe Jenkins, that he was in with Martin Lawrence, Monique, also rest his soul, Michael Clark Duncan, Mike Epps, Cedric the Entertainer, Margaret Avery, and of course Star Wars, man. But shout out to the late great James Earl Jones. Fellas, pleasure having y'all on the Sports PSP pod. Final words, tell them where to follow y'all at.
First of all, thank you, PSP. Appreciate it once again. Don't mean to be repetitive, but I would be remiss if I didn't say that. Number one, congratulations on 17,000. Keep going. It's only going to get better. Undisputed world champ on TikTok. Hey, a lot of good things going on there. World champ _ 2.0. A lot of collaborations with PSP, Brandon from the Block, and a lot of the network guys. Hot Take Kenny, you name them, we got them. And Undisputed GOAT podcast on YouTube, which features the Big Three. Special time tomorrow at 9 o'clock after college football.
BRF.
As always, it's always a pleasure getting on here with you, PSP, giving us this platform to do what we do and do what we love. Like Champ said, I'm echoing it. Shout out, hey, congratulations, 17K. I wish you but nothing but even more success than you already got. Champ,
Thank you.
you know how it is, man. You know how it is, Champ. You my brother. We rep the 706. You know how we do. And like Champ said, special night for the Undisputed GOAT Sports Podcast. 9 o'clock Eastern time tomorrow. And and I also want to give a shout out to the homies at Spiral Sports Media, because I am on a new podcast, wrestling podcast now every Tuesday. It's called The Throwdown. So shout out to my homie Elijah. Shout out to the homie JD. Our first episode should be up. We talked about Cody Rhodes and Flo's Code, the Bloodline, and we also ranked the best title reigns of 2024. So that's definitely a good. I had a lot of fun talking about that. So definitely y'all go check out The Throwdown every Tuesday. Spiral Sports Media. Shout out to those boys as well. It was an honor having me on there. So hey man, anything to help me get my name out there. At the end of the day, this is a business, and we all want to thrive, and we all want to put our names out there as much as possible. So anything to give us an opportunity to have our voices heard, we're more than willing to put this work in. We're more than willing to do what we do and what we feel we do best, and that's talk sports with the best of them. Because this is why me, Champ, and Flash, we call ourselves the Big Three. That's why Champ refers to Sports PSP's podcast as the highlight of Friday nights. It's because we feel like we do this and we feel like we represent this to the fullest. And so we are always going to do this. And shout out to everybody who follow. We love y'all. We support y'all. And we're going to continue to keep thriving. And we're going to continue to keep this pushing. Because it's like I always say, a topic not thought about is a topic not talked about. And that's how we living. And that's how we're going to keep doing it. So shout out to PSP. Shout out to Champ. Shout out to the homies in the Pod and Grind chat on the IG. You follow BRL Sports, the TikTok handle. Also, the link tree is in the bio of my TikTok, IG, Facebook, Twitter /X. Y'all get out here. Y'all continue to show us the love, and we're going to keep bringing y'all the content because we feel like this is what we do and this is what we do best. So shout out to everybody, and we're going to keep it pushing.
Absolutely. And y'all know where to follow me at, folks. Sports PSP, like and subscribe to the YouTube channel, as well as IG Sports PSP, as well as TikTok Sports PSP 3. Fellas, everyone out there who tuned in to watch the Sports PSP podcast, hope everyone's enjoying a fantastic weekend. Enjoy it while watching some college football, drinking responsibly, of course, having a good time, and being safe on your phone. You don't want to end up like what happened with Shannon Sharp, but that's a story for another day, folks.
All I'm gonna say about this is our truth never change. Never change. Our truth never change.
And on that note, we're gonna end it off. Y'all enjoy the rest of y'all weekend and peace.